Welcome to the Town Board meeting, Thursday, February 18th. Please rise and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Emergency exits are to my right, behind the screen, and also the door you came in. Roll, please.
Councilman Delango?
Here.
Councilman Gutierrez?
Here.
Councilwoman Doyle? Here. Supervisor Perotti?
Here.
And be noted that Councilwoman Hitzelberger will be late.
Public comment?
I can't get to the, can you get me that? There's a notepad up there. Sorry. Martha Lee?
Good evening. I am here tonight because of the possibility of the implementation of the Buffamonte compost facility.
Could we have your address, please?
Yes, it's 12 Lee Lane, Dover Plains, New York.
Okay, thank you.
Needless to say, we're deeply concerned about this whole situation. None of us in that area have town water. We all have wells. The water table's very high, and I understand that, you know, it could possibly affect the aquifer. And I just wanted to say that if there was even a remote possibility of that happening at all, even down the road, it would just be a very serious matter, not only for the area around the homes around Butts Hollow Road, but going down into Dover. That aquifer goes way down to Tally Ho Park and even further than that. I think the number one consideration should be the protection of that aquifer under all circumstances. I was also a little surprised when I saw the report of the Amenia Conservation Advisory Committee that was dated November 19th, 2015, and presented by David Reagan, the chair of that committee. It says, on November 18th, the CAC met and extensively discussed the proposed Buffamonte composting site and the zoning language change needed to facilitate the project in the OC zone. We came to the conclusion that this project, as proposed at this location, should not be considered by the town board. We think that the board should simply say no and terminate the process now. And that goes on, you know, to list out some of the concerns about the aquifer. I also have a question that hopefully will be answered tonight, is because I'm not well versed in this type of thing, does the DEC and the EPA involve themselves in decisions like this? Have they been involved? If they have, would we have access to their reports? I just think that it's just too important an issue to let this slide by and go unnoticed. Thank you very much.
Jane Delarada?
Good evening. I'm the first house in Amenia, heading up Route 22, first house in Amenia. I just recently got notification of this aquifer too, and I just want answers tonight as to what it is. This is saying a compost facility, and this report by Mr. Reagan is saying a solid waste, which is two huge different things. Just came tonight for answers, and I think we should have, again, had more communication out there as to what's been happening with this proposal in my area. Been there over 60 years, raised my kids there, and I really hope my grandkids can still drink the water.
Sharon Kroger?
Sharon Kroger, Leedsville. I've already explained to you, and I won't do that again, why it is that this should not be pursued in any way, this Buffamonte project. However, we had started to talk about, if you do pursue a secret process, what are the things that need to be done? And that EAF material needs to be, in addition to whomever you already sent it to, needs to definitely go to the town of Dover and to the town of Washington. Washington, because there is adjacency there, and because whatever fumes are generated on an ongoing basis will go upward and up the mountain into the area which is in Washington, at least unless the westward wind is blowing. Dover, because the aquifer extends solidly down there, and it's a shared aquifer. Secondly, this EAF material should also be sent to the Dutchess County Water and Wastewater Authority, which is the agency responsible for monitoring the community wells all along the aquifer, southward from the proposed solid waste plant. This would include the community wells for Tally Ho and May Lane, as well as those further south in Dover, such as the Powell community. And I thought we may have some people here tonight from the Powell community who are worried about this down in Dover. Interestingly enough, earlier this week, I happened to go down to buy gasoline at Rennie's, and I was told that there had just been a very significant television coverage on Channel 12 in Long Island about damage to the drinking water aquifer there on Long Island as a result of 5 or 6 different composting plants out there. It was also a heavy story in Newsday. You may want to go in and get that. And one of the outcomes of this difficulty and this exposure is that the DEC is evidently studying some new regulations and guidelines as a result of the pollution of that aquifer from composting.
Graham Spearman.
Hello. I'm one of the neighboring properties. I'm at 3529 Route 22. My well is very close to this piece of land. Obviously, I'd be very upset about having polluted water. It doesn't really take a lot to imagine that even if this is solid waste, meaning maybe it's not garbage, but it's actually plant material, the amount of chemicals that people put on their plants in their yards is generally quite substantial. You can think of things like DDT or any of the others that are still used. They wash straight down into the water supply, and if those were to be in our aquifer, it would mean that they'd be there permanently. It's not something that I want to encounter immediately or down the road, because as I am still young, I plan on having kids in a few years, which means there's plenty of time for this material to leach into the ground. I am unaware of a way to prevent things from leaching into the ground from a large compost facility. I'm sure that there's technical ways to attempt it, but I don't think there's any way to really make it foolproof. Also, I'm upset about the idea of there being a large amount of smell wafting around the property, and the extreme amount of traffic that this would require. Trucks coming up and down Route 22, passing within close proximity, the sound of heavy equipment. These are all serious concerns. My reading of the town code certainly did sound like there had to be some sort of DEC approval for a solid waste facility. I haven't had any notifications of my property whatsoever. As an adjacent property, I feel like I should have been notified more than just by neighbors who are paying more attention than I was. That being said, I unequivocally do not want this. I think that as a neighbor, it's fair for me to say that. And unfortunately, some of my other neighbors are not available to be here tonight, but they've all shared the same sentiment. Thank you.
Janet Reagan.
Janet Reagan, Wasaig. In order to allow this composting facility to take place, the town board needs to change the language in the office commercial zone to allow composting, which is specifically recognized as a solid waste activity and specifically prohibited by the zoning law. The whole purpose of zoning is to protect everyone's interests. This provision was put into place due to Amenia's long, unfortunate, and expensive history with solid waste sites in town. If you allow composting at the proposal site, you open the door to such activity in all of the other OC sites, all of which are over the aquifer. This aquifer is the second largest aquifer in Dutchess County, and it's very important to the health and well-being of both Amenia residents and the people to the south in the Harlem Valley. Further, this project jeopardizes neighbors' property values as they will have to contend with increased truck traffic, noise, lights, dust, and odors. Also, why do we want to plant waste from Westchester County composted in Dutchess County, running the risk of the spread of invasive species? For any project, it is important to do a cost-benefit analysis. The developer says it will create jobs, but he also said at the earlier meeting at which I listened to, that almost all of those jobs will be filled by people who are already employed in his operation. The costs of this proposal are many, and the benefits are few. The costs are potentially devastating. Once the aquifer is contaminated, even inadvertently, and I am sure without the intent of the developer, it is very difficult and very expensive to remediate and clean up. The town board has the right to stop this project right now, and it would be a favor to the developer as well to stop him having to spend enormous costs on a whole seeker process, which ends in eventual dismissal by the board. So I urge you to do that. Stop it right now.
Susan Basalone.
Good evening. My name is Susan Basalone. I'm at 19 Christina Drive, Dover Plains, New York, in Tally Ho. I've been here now for 6 years. I lived in Westchester County in Pleasantville. I had a lovely home there. Then I moved to Carmel, New York, and I was in a gorgeous area called Kent Cliffs on a private lake. My husband built me this magnificent home. We were 11 miles from the town. There were people that came out at one time that wanted to build off of 301 and start this stuff again. Well, we all got together, and I don't do very much anymore getting involved. I work for Putnam County Office for the Aging for many, many years, but this bothers me a lot because water is something you cannot replace. And Victoria, your constituents do not want it. I'm sitting here, I've never been in this room before. I'm sitting here and I'm looking at this. It says Amenia, named from the Latin Amenia. Pleasant to the eye by Thomas Young, early settler, who also named Vermont. Well, what's it going to be? It's going to be people coming in here. I think you got to put an addition. It's not going to be pleasant to the eye anymore, but it's going to be smelly to the nose. We don't want it. Your constituents don't want it. Mr. Belafonte, go some other place. We don't have anything in this town. We don't have a store because everything is turned down. But that property, whoever is selling it, all of a sudden can sell to a man that's going to do such damage before and then you know what happens. Once he has one, he's going to want another. This Italian doesn't want it. And I'm going to tell you, the seniors at Tally Ho, and I choose to live there in that park because we have an owner that watches everything. He's phenomenal new owner, and I will say his accolades forever and ever. All the seniors there that couldn't come out, we represent them. We do not want it because the vote in 2 years, trust me, will be different this time. I just want you to know it.
Anna Worrell.
Who is that?
Anna?
She thought it was a signage.
Oh, that's okay. And same thing with Joan? Both of you? That's, no, thank you. Rosemary, are you just signing in, or would you like to speak?
I ditto what Susan said. I'm representing Tally Ho. It's Rosemary Leisky, Tally Ho Estates.
Can you say the last name for the project?
Leisky,
Lesky?
Lajszky. And I'm dittoing what Susan just said. I actually lived in Sunnyside where we had the Newtown Creek. And on a hot day, you couldn't even go out. It smelled so bad. And I mean, I moved from there to here, and now I'm not gonna be able to get out of my house because it's gonna smell on a 90-degree day. What is this gonna smell like? This is my front yard. And I'm tired, I'm retired, and I just want to be able to live in peace and drink my water. And if you keep this going, they predicted that water is going to be more valuable than oil, with this fracking and all this other crap that's going on in the world. And is this going to be a precedent, like she said, if we let this take place this time? Will somebody else want to sell their property and sell it to a different garbage dump? And before you know it, we're not going to be able to sell our homes. Tally Ho's having a hard time selling homes now. If we have this dump, we're never going to sell our homes. And I don't think it's right. You're taking away our retirement. Does any of you live in this area at all that this would affect you? That's what I want to know. If you don't, would you do this to your yard? Would you want this? Think about this for yourself. Do you want this for your grandchildren? Do you want to be able to be like Flint, Michigan, where they can't drink the water? There's places in Pennsylvania where they're fracking so much, they have water tanks in front of their houses. That's what we're going to come down to eventually, because like the other gentleman said, people use pesticides on this plant stuff, and it's going to leak into our soils. And that's all I have to say, and all of Tally Ho is against it, and that is a lot of votes out there. Thank you very much.
Is there any other public comment? Because you can speak even if you haven't signed up. Does anyone else want to speak, Brad?
Brad Rebolette, Wasake. I live right next to the site, and interestingly enough, this is the first I've heard of it. And I applaud all those who are here talking about this. Thank you, because it's
You live next to the site? You live
Yeah.
on Old Route 22?
Old Route 22.
You live across the street from where the illegal one has been going on for 5 years.
This is public comment. Only one is allowed to speak is the person at the podium.
So I have a question. Where is the site? What's the
It's
actual?
the old Lopane Nurseries.
Okay, all right. I was thinking of the one up the road from us, which is not
No.
different from this.
No,
But-
it's on Route 22.
Right. It's the first I've heard of it. But I do know that one of the things I've seen in the past with sites like this is that if this were approved, that there's no policing power afterwards. There's nothing to stop or test what's coming into it. If the applicant says this is all clean, this is all approved, this is not pesticides or sludge from New York City, whatever. The point is, you can't approve a project like this without having some sort of policing power in place that monitors everything that comes into it. And I have not seen a project where that actually has happened. There may be those who say it could happen or it should happen, but I do not believe that this board or the town would get those reports on a regular basis. They test the municipal water monthly. You would not get a report like this from a site like this. That's one thing that really concerns me. Thanks.
Is there any other public comment? Mark, did you want to speak?
Thank you. My name is Mark Doyle. I had quite a bit of experience with a composting operation. I'm a farmer, and I generally like the idea of composting very much. However, in my role of board member of the Dutchess, Putnam and Westchester Farm Bureau, we supported a member in Putnam Valley who wanted to create an operation such as this on his farm, and made many of the same kind of representations of being able to process excess vegetable and wood material from the surrounding area. And indeed, he was able to successfully get sort of initial permitting and get going in the town. And it was perhaps the greatest regret, certainly of my time with Farm Bureau, but also, you know, on the part of the town, that they had allowed this, because before they knew it, they had the situation that is being described here so well, that there were trucks rolling in, there was material that they had no idea, you know, where it came from, a myriad of problems, and eventually it was shut down. And I believe that this was in Putnam, so I'm sure Westchester has had similar experiences in the past, but we should not go down the same road. Thank you.
Tonya.
Hi, I'm Tonya Shumatoff. Sorry, I have a cold. Yes, I had to research a story about composting for the Millbrook Independent, and I was able to speak to some people in Westchester about what the general rule of thumb is about composting, and at this point, and they said it basically what is being recommended now is composting in place on the site. So that is in Katona. I spoke to people in White Plains. And so they said they were very surprised that an entity would want to bring compost up to Dutchess from Westchester when it's being recommended that composting happen in place. The other thing was I was able to speak to Eric Kiviat, who had done a survey of a site in Kingston. I was at a conference with him on invasive species, and he was rather horrified because he said that he found a lot of invasive species on a composting site that had been not from this area, that had been transferred up from the city area into Kingston, and that were now very difficult to remove, and they come up through composting. And he said people should be lobbying their legislators, just like it's illegal now to take firewood more than 50 miles away or over state borders. People should not be allowed to move composting material, he said, more than 3 miles away. So you're asking for trouble, actually, if you move composting material that far a distance away. And in a period of time when everybody's talking about aquifers, you know, we've got the problems with Flint, Michigan. We all know what a watershed is now. It's the land around the water that's underneath the ground. We need to protect that land, and we need to protect the water underneath the land. And as everybody said, and you have a wonderful CAC here, which is about to become a conservation advisory board. You have someone who is the head of that board, who's basically of the same caliber as your consultants, who has advised that this is actually not a good idea. So I suggest that you listen to your own conservation advisory board and your own zoning board, former zoning board, Leo Blackman, who's written you letters, and you know, just listen to the public and listen to the experts, because there's a lot to be considered here, and it is true that once you lose your aquifer, it's almost impossible to clean it up.
Is there any other public comment? Would anyone else like to speak? Okay, supervisor's report. On ambulance service. On February 9th, the ambulance service committees for Wassaic and Amenia met with representatives from Northern Dutchess paramedics, the Councilwoman Hitzelberger, Deputy Supervisor Doyle, and myself present. The discussions centered about certain aspects, contractual aspects, such as backfill
fly care, and other items that might be part of a potential contract and how they might work. The purpose of the meeting was informational only. On February 16, 2016, the Ambulance Service Committee for Wassaic and Amenia, with town board members, Councilman DeLango, Deputy Supervisor Doyle, and myself, were scheduled to meet with Mobile Life, another ambulance service provider. However, because of an emergency, they did not come to the meeting. The person in charge of canceling the daytime appointments was not aware of an evening appointment that needed to be canceled until I called to see where the representatives were. They will reschedule at a later date. Deputy Supervisor, on February 17th, Deputy Supervisor and myself met with newly hired Brad Pinsky from Pinsky Law Group, who is a specialist in emergency medicine, medical services matters. He went over the options open to the town board and will be putting together a detailed report for the town board members for discussion, and in addition to a potential meeting to be set at a later date. Some of the options discussed were ambulance district or districts, or setting up a system where a contract amount would become part of the budget, and the provider would be allowed to bill in order to offset the cost of the contract. The goal is the least amount of cost to the taxpayers. I attended trainings at the Association of Towns for sale of town property, petroleum bulk storage, new regulations for supervisors, transparency and accessibility, making local government more efficient, assessment process, fiscal accountability, legalities of purchasing and competitive bidding. In addition, I had an opportunity to speak with many vendors and state officers at their tables, including Jeff Travers, who does our employee handbook updates. Once I go through the mountain of information I collected, it will be shared with the town board. On February 24th at 5:30, our county executive, Marcus Molinaro, will be here for a town hall meeting. You are all welcome to attend, and he will be discussing the new plan for the jail and anything else that anyone would like to ask him about. Town clerk report.
Good evening. I'd like to first take the opportunity to thank everyone that's come out to the town hall this evening and donated blood. The minutes of the town board meetings of February 4th, February 9th, and February 16th have been circulated to the board. The 2016 tax collection has begun. As that general reminder, I'd like to remind that taxes are due whether or not you've received your bill. If you pay your tax bill and not the bank, and you have not received your tax bill, you may print your tax bill off by visiting our website at www.ameniany.gov or by calling the office, and we'll be glad to give you the amount over the phone. To date, I'd like to report to the board that I've collected $1,944,688.20. That's equivalent to 36% of the taxes that the tax collector's office collects. And on this day, I have paid all special districts, half of the general fund, and half of highway. This evening, I've also circulated to the board members. We've received one application submitted to volunteer on the ethics board. Make sure everybody has them. I don't know if you would like to schedule an interview or if you are familiar with the applicant. And then the last agenda item that I'm presenting this evening is vouchers. The vouchers were audited and reviewed by the town clerk's office, and I'm submitting them to the town board to authorize the supervisor to pay claims. We do have one bill that's coming over from the year of 2015 that was totaling $11,175.63 for water. For our general fund for February of 2016, totaling $41,726.58. Highway totaling $17,247.16. Lighting totaling $1,671.73. Wassaic lighting $573.46. This month's water is $1,295, and landfill totaling the amount of $100,000. So totally presenting this evening for vouchers to be paid in the amount of $173,689.56.
Make the motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the vouchers on this abstract dated February 17, 2016, in the total amount of $173,689.56.
Second?
Councilwoman Hitzelberger is absent. Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilman Gutierrez?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
And Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
We did have some emails regarding the minutes. There was two.
Excuse me, one minute to
Sure.
While we're talking about the vouchers, when I signed the vouchers the other day, a lot of them are unlegible. I can't decipher what they're for, what they're doing. Most of them are handwritten. We have to sit there and go through, 100, 120, however many there are. And I mean,
The invoices are attached.
some of the invoices are handwritten that you can't even understand what they're from also. I was sitting there with Councilman Gutierrez signing the vouchers, and we were kind of asking each other, what did it say? What was this? What was that? I would like to see if we could have some way with the vouchers, either they're typed or written legibly so we could see them. I mean, Vicki, you signed the same vouchers, and there were some tough ones in there this trip.
I know, like Wayne has difficult handwriting. Some people I've learned to read.
I agree, but,
yeah, so-
we're sitting there putting our name to these vouchers,
No, but you
and
need to read them.
I think
Yeah.
if we could set up some kind of way where we can have the vouchers so they're more legible. If they need a department head to type them up or something. Some of them are great, but, there's other ones that I can't decipher. I can make out bits and pieces, and I'm trying to piece together, like ad-libs, what it's about. I don't want to be wrong on some of this stuff, so if we could find some way to
Well,
make those vouchers
we can have
better,
the main voucher typed up,
which
far as that
might
goes.
help.
It is. What we did is, several years ago when we switched over, we added that voucher as a PDF rather than a Word document, so it couldn't be altered in any way. Maybe if someone has the capabilities, or having BAS do it, but they charge us,
Right.
to make it a fillable form in lieu of a PDF.
I think a fillable form would take a lot of the guesswork out of it, particularly, those mileage logs are very hard to read from the assessor's office. But I would say what has helped me tremendously is if I'm there when the bookkeeper is there, she can go right in, help me decipher. But if I don't understand, or I question whether or not the money is really being allocated from the right line or whatever, I have them set it aside, inquire as to is that really the right line that should come in? Those kind of questions are really great, and I would not sign anything that you don't understand.
But wasn't the bookkeeper there?
The bookkeeper was there. She was actually in a meeting with another accountant when
Okay.
we signed the vouchers, so we weren't in her office like normal. We were outside where the printer was.
Well, anything you have a question on, you can always put aside.
No, it would be nice if they were legible. I don't think it's really much to ask. It is a document that is signed.
I know, but department heads hand it in. What we can do is, I can have the typist in my office type them if necessary.
That's fine. It's just, like I said, it would help me immensely to actually understand what these things are if they were legible.
I think it would be cheaper to hire them to turn the PDFs into a fillable form so that you submit them online, there's a record online, it's typed in, we don't have to hire a typist to do that work unless they're just have
Well, we're
work.
not hiring anybody.
Well, utilizing paid staff hours, I think that it should be incumbent upon the person who's typing it to do it right the first time so it's typed in, ideally.
I agree.
It's no different than what I'm looking for, Victoria, is similar to state forms that you can fill out. You can just put everything in and then you have to print it. You can't say
Yes.
that you would print it out themselves. So all of our vendors would then have access to that same document, whether you're outside vendor or in-house employee.
Well, there are
Picking up
several
the tax.
vendors that already have the vouchers and send them to us. But we can look at the vouchers and work to make it better for everyone.
Thank you.
Is the board ready to take action on the minutes?
Yes.
So for the February 16th minutes, I'll read aloud. Ambulance service contract discussion. The purpose of this evening's meeting was to meet with Mobile Life to discuss the ambulance service contract. The vendor representatives did not show. I've had 2 comments. I've had an amendment suggesting that I add into that specific line stating that they were not there due to an emergency. And then I've also had a comment from one of the board members that was present that I indicate that we waited 45 minutes before we found out. I'm opening the conversation if you guys would like to add either one, both comments. What would you like to add? And as a group, make that amendment.
The only reason why I asked to add in the 45 minutes late, because it was a 6:30 meeting that wasn't called to order until 7 o'clock. And I just kind of wanted it in the record why that meeting was a half hour late. And that was my purpose of, adding that in there.
I just tried to keep it simple and said the vendor didn't show without getting into their personal reason why they didn't show.
Well,
Or
I think
indicate that
I
you're-
think it's makes it more accurate to have the reason there.
Which we found out 45 minutes later. So I'll add both comments in?
I'm fine with both comments, if everybody else is.
Sure.
Okay. So with the amendment of February 16th, I present those minutes.
I'll make a motion that we accept the February 4th, the February 9th, and the February 16th minutes, with the 16th minutes being amended as noted.
I'll second that.
All 2016.
I wasn't at all of them.
Oh, so I
So
make a
we're gonna
motion
have to
that
break
Want to
we,
do
have
each
to do
one
them
individually?
separately.
that we do February 4th, 2016, as presented.
I second that.
Absent. Councilman Delango.
Yes.
Councilman Gutierrez.
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle.
Yes.
And Supervisor Perotti.
Yes.
February 9th.
So I make a motion that we approve the February 9th, 2016 minutes as presented.
I'll second that.
Councilman Delango.
Abstain.
Councilman Gutierrez.
Abstain.
Councilwoman Doyle.
Yes?
Supervisor Perotti.
Yes.
We don't have a quorum for that.
And we don't have a quorum for that one.
To do that when Gretchen gets here. I'll make a motion that we approve this February 16th, 2016 minutes as corrected.
I'll second that.
So, Councilman Delango.
Yes.
Councilman Gutierrez.
Abstain.
Councilwoman Doyle.
Yes.
And Supervisor Perotti.
Yes.
Guess we just got to remember when Gretchen returns.
Is Gretchen here tonight?
Okay, did we
Yes, she
want
should.
to talk about the volunteer application we have for the ethics?
Yeah.
For Evelyn O'Connell, she's been interviewed for, do you want to interview her for this? She's been interviewed for the kitchen committee already, which she serves on.
And I think we interviewed her enough. It's an open committee with a seat. I'm okay with approving it without interview.
Can I make a motion to appoint Evelyn O'Connell to the Ethics Committee?
I'll second it.
And that's an unexpired term. Councilman Delango.
Yes.
Councilman Gutierrez.
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle.
Yes.
Supervisor Perotti.
Yes. Highway?
How you doing? Yeah, we've been busy last month taking down a lot of dead trees. Deep Hollow had a lot of dead hemlocks and ash. We've taken down quite a few of them. Never big tall ones leaning towards the road, snapping off every time we got a little bit of wind. We took down the locust tree by the Mygat Cemetery, got rid of that. There's a couple more on Sharon Station and Perry Corners I want to get down before it warms up too much. So that's what we've mainly been doing, is just working on trees and brush. And then winter hit us here a couple weeks ago. So we've been plowing and sanding a little bit. So far, everything's good, going good. Equipment's holding up. Sand piles, salt piles, all good. These little storms do use up a lot of material, so we're not saving a whole lot, even though the winter's a lot easier. That's about all I have. Any questions, anybody? Or?
Been meaning to tell you that there's 2 lights on the raised park in the hamlet of Wassaic. The 2 historic lights need, the one's closest to the tree.
Yeah, we can call.
We'll do that ourselves?
Yeah.
Okay, do you have 2 light bulbs still in your stock?
I think last time you had to get them from John LaCurdo, didn't you?
Yes, they came out of Red Hook.
Yeah, because they come, yeah, there's special.
It's a special bulb. They're very expensive.
Yeah.
Are they low energy, like
Oh, I don't know.
LEDs? Okay.
I know they don't last very long.
No, they don't. I'd like to see an LED option if there is
Yeah,
such a.
well, we can look for that.
I would think.
Be
it
a
would
lot better than replacing them all the time.
Right. And lower energy.
Yeah, maybe we talk to an electrician. Maybe they have some ideas.
Okay,
I think we should change it somehow if we can.
we can do that. How's that?
Yep.
Grant report, the only change from the other grant report we were sent on the 4th is that what was added from the grants we already have for Wassaic Trail of the Train and Amenia Sidewalks and a kitchen grant, the pending grant applications for dance program, Arts Mid-Hudson and OCFS. We're going to apply for a kitchen grant for M&T Bank Foundation, but that isn't going to work out. So, but we have applied for a kitchen grant to the Tribute Garden for $30,000, and that proposal is still under review. We still haven't heard from Dutchess County about the Wassaic Sidewalk grant we applied for from CDBG, sorry. And the town hall boilers, that project is underway, and NYSERDA is in touch with the engineers, and it looks like we will probably be getting 40% of the pellet-fired boiler cost. Is there any other committee? Do you have a committee report?
The CAC met last night. We had a very full agenda. Just go over that. We talked about the EMC annual meeting, annual report that will be representing Amenia there at the countywide annual discussion. And we filled out all of our projects that we've been working on this year for that report. We approved our minutes. You'll be getting those. South Amenia mining, we talked about the map and the status of that process of updating the soil mining overlay. Talked about the big thicket proposal, which I told the board that I'd be happy to report about. Perhaps, I don't know if you want to hear about it now or if you want to hear about it later in my report would be fine. We did we're finishing up our natural resource inventory. We worked and submitted the groundwater section to the board in November. We redrafted it very thoroughly, and we're on the last leg of finishing up the whole thing. It looks great. It's very educational, talks all about why groundwater is important and all of the natural resources in Amenia. We talked about a hiking trail that is probably little known but extraordinary beautiful. That's actually, I think it's alongside your property, Mr. Maggio, correct? So it's the DEC
purchased or has an easement over a section of the 10 Mile River. Is the 10 Mile River there?
On the other side, on the east side.
On the east side of the railroad tracks. Is you would, if you were going to go try and visit this, it's a recreational pathway that you can park at the old DDSO power plant parking lot and walk back and go alongside the river until you get to this extraordinarily beautiful place. So we're going to try and go out there and see that. We talked about the status of the old Amenia landfill, which the management plan is being finished up. And we lastly went back over the Bulpamonte proposal very briefly. And I'll talk about the Big Thicket proposal during my report.
Okay, I have a kitchen committee report. Wayne Uvard, chairman, called the meeting to order at 7. Present were Wayne Uvard, Frankie O'Connell, Alan Gamble, Charlene Pollinger, Linda Gregory. Absent were town board liaison Gretchen Hitzelberger and Michael DeLango due to a town board workshop. They had the approval of meetings. The next meeting will be held on March 15, 2016 at 7 p.m. in the assessor's office. The committee reviewed the current updates on the Town of Amenia Community Kitchen Use Policy. A big thank you to Alan for developing this new policy. A thorough discussion regarding procedures and pricing was had. Frankie will gather more information on pricing and report back to the committee. The Board of Health has given us approval to move forward along with a requirement list. Wayne and Linda will work on completing it. Wayne announced that the demolition of the kitchen is going smoothly and we are all eager to see it finished. Alan gave the committee the list of donated items for the kitchen project from Silo Ridge. Wayne will be gathering estimates for the equipment needed. The grant discussed the offer of dishes from the Presbyterian Church. However, at this time we will hold off on any donations since we are short of space and not sure of our full needs. And there are no further business before the committee, adjourned at 7:55. We also received the annual report of our municipal historian, Arlene Giuliano. What historic sites or buildings have been marked in the past year and by whom? A historic marker was installed in the steelwork section of the Wassaic hamlet of the Town of Amenia in August 2015 by Amenia Highway Department. On October 16, 2015, a presentation was made at the annual meeting at the Amenia Historical Society of the historians' work with the Pomeroy Foundation of Syracuse, New York, seeking an award, and the history of the area by Betsy Strauss, Amenia Historical Society genealogist. The marker was a 2014 project that was ultimately received in 2015. Because of bad weather in early 2015, it was not installed until later in the year. As it is on a county road, it meant working with the Dutchess County Department of Public Works, Stephen Gill, traffic engineer, to finalize placement. He was very good to work with, as is the Amenia Highway Department. What places should be marked in your locality? The site area, the arrowheads collected by the late Ken Hoadley, town historian, from 1987-2007, that were displayed in 2014 by member Dave Reagan, are now in the New York Museum in Albany on display permanently. The old Benson homestead on Poplar Hill Road was built in the early 1700s, and members of the family still reside in Amenia. These two sites have been suggested by Amenia residents. What historical celebrations were held in your community last year? On March 8th and 14th, 2015, I assisted with displays at the Wassaic Firehouse of the 1934 ice event, when Wassaic Creek ice broke away and traveled into the hamlet area. Pictures and articles made the New York newspapers. What I used were originally from the Amenia Historical Society archives. I was invited at the request of an area resident. The first was at a Wassaic Fire Company Ladies Auxiliary breakfast. The second at a Boy Scout supper held there. And she has included some of the newspaper reports about the disastrous flood, which inundated Wassaic when the ice flow. Amenia 10, 2015, Amenia Historical Society and the Northeast Historical Society collaboratively sponsored a presentation titled From New York to Nagaland, the Transformation Work of the Clarks. Its theme was about Edward and Mary Mead Clark, the first missionaries there in 1863. They were from Northeast and Amenia respectively before they married. It was held at the Amenia Town Hall's auditorium. It was well attended. I worked at the Strawberry Fair at the Amenia Presbyterian Church on June 13, 2015 in the church to assist visitors. This was their 42nd fair. I had some display materials about church history. The church is to be sold, so this may be the last time this event is held there. The church was built during the Civil War period. I assisted with a raffle and sales at the Weebatuck County Schoolhouse Association Community Day on September 19, 2015. The event is held at the site on Mygat Road in the hamlet of Amenia. The theme was hands-on for kids. I set up arts and crafts event for Holiday of Lights program, Amenia Town Hall in the gym on December 12, 2015, as part of a countywide program begun in 1994. The youngsters enjoyed making old-fashioned paper chains, as well as their own art and craft designs. I also had display posters of Amenia in the windows. It was a free supper as part of the late afternoon's activities that included a parade and had been preceded by a youngsters' song fest in the Town Hall auditorium. Are any historical celebrations planned for the coming year? The town of Amenia participates in the annual Holiday of Lights, and Amenia Historical Society participates in the WCSA Annual Community Day. As invited town historian and WCSA member, I participate by either helping with events or setting up my own, depending on their needs. Amenia Historical Society may also have another visit from Naga land visitor Dr. Nirola Al McFadden, great-granddaughter of the first Al Naga pastor. 2, may do a program about Susan Nye Hutchinson and her life of 30 years, 1815 to 1845 in the South during the time of slavery. She grew up in South Amenia. Amenia Historical Society receives most of the offers for presentation and plans accordingly year-round. Have you made a careful inspection of your local records? Please describe their condition, any record management plans currently in use. Amenia Historical Society continues to work on its files. This includes sorting, copying, arranging, digitalization, and control of distribution to visitors at their space at the town hall. The files are well maintained as in the room. It is open from 2 to 4 Tuesdays and Thursdays or by special arrangement. The Amenia Town Clerk maintains Old Town records in her office and directs her deputies in the procedure. The closet, I think she means the vault, is well organized, as are the records. I maintain my own records in a special room. What additional records or items relating to your local history have you collected for your municipality this year? Do you have a collections acquisition plan in place? Amenia Historical Society and the town clerk collect local history and have individual acquisition plans. Amenia Historical Society documents collections received in their quarterly meeting minutes and the names of those requesting information. At least 5 persons and or families donated items to Amenia Historical Society this year. What other services have you provided for your community? I set up history displays at each of the 2 banks in town and change them monthly. I use the Veterans of Foreign Wars monthly calendar as a source document of holidays and military event dates. I use my own documents and copies for the displays. I attended 4 town board meetings and report as indicated. There are scheduled. This year was very cold, snowy, and icy between January and March, so they were easier to watch at home as they are videotaped. There are scheduled replays of them and others on Channel 22. I took a total of 10 messages from individuals seeking genealogical or some other type of information. I referred the former to Betsy Strauss and acted on the rest, which included town projects referred to the Conservation Advisory Council, of which I am an active member, or follow up at the Historic Society with my own records. I write a monthly 500-word article for the Millerton News, published in the town of Northeast, our neighbor to the immediate north, under the heading On History's Path. I encourage the town board to update the town's pamphlet for distribution to the region, most specifically via Dutchess County Tourism. The town board took over the process. I will follow up. I maintain a display area in the hall on the first floor of the Amenia Town Hall. I change it throughout the year. Although I advise that I will leave
The Delaware and View shed pictures in place until Silo Ridge clears the area of excess trees. This is a promise they had made to recreate and include in their revised 2008 project, the original view of the tri-state area to the north-northeast, now lessened by allowing excess trees to remain in place. I worked with Candace Lewis, editor, on an article on the Dutchess County Historical Society's 2015 Yearbook, Volume 94, public titled, The Civil War in Dutchess County, New York. Ann Linden of the WCSA assisted me with pictures. Part 1 was published in 2015, and Part 2 will be published in 2016. My article is to be included in Part 2. Okay, the next item on the agenda is discussion, the Bofamonte Secret Lead Agency Resolution and EAF, and I believe they are doing a presentation at this time. Yes, go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Anthony Bofamonte. I'm the owner of 3501 Route 22 in Amenia. I want to thank everybody coming out this evening, and I hope everybody has a little time for a little education. If it's allowed, I'd like to have my engineers present, and I'd be open to a question and answer period at the end. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I wasn't sure if there's a mic that I could use handheld. If not, that's
Yes,
okay.
there is, at the back of the room.
I'd like to just also emphasize what Anthony already mentioned. We thank you for coming out this evening. We certainly appreciate a lot of the comments that have already been shared. A lot of the concerns are actually concerns that we empathize with relative to protecting the groundwater resources, most notably the aquifer, which is certainly a valuable water resource in this community. I'd like to also thank the town board for this opportunity to present tonight. My name is David Wright. I represent Anthony Bofamonte as an engineer for this project from a company GHD. My background personally is in water resources engineering, also in solid waste management relative to specifically composting facilities. With me tonight I have my project manager Beth Ann Smith, who's going to help advance the slides and also help answer any of your questions. I guess to begin, I'd like to preface this with 2 points of purpose. First, as Anthony already mentioned, we like to provide an opportunity for education. I certainly appreciate your attention this evening, as we hope that we can help to appease some of your concerns relative to being able to manage the site as a well-engineered facility. I believe that someone already expressed earlier the question of whether or not this is a DEC EPA mandated permitted site. I like to emphasize it is, in fact, a DEC permitted regulated site. And I'd like to further clarify a bit, I guess, what is composting? What are we looking at? So if we could advance the slide, please. As a presentation overview, I'll be talking about these 6 points. What is composting 101? Giving you a little bit of background as to what we intend to do relative to managing yard waste material. I would like to clarify this is not food waste. It's not biosolids or sludge. It's a yard waste material. So generally in the realm of composting, those other 2 subsets of food waste and biosolids, sludge do have odors that have greater environmental concerns. Yard waste composting generally in the composting realm is not representing those significant odors that are generally concerns with these other feedstock materials. I like to speak relative to typical process elements and help to present to you by means of photos what we envision for this composting site. Talk a little bit about the site, where it's located, what it looks like currently. I'd also like to discuss some of the environmental factors relative to what's already been mentioned tonight: groundwater, stormwater management, operational controls, and odors. And I hope to also give you just a couple quick examples of some similar completed projects, one in New York State, one in a different part of the world, but really similar to what might be envisioned for the Bofamonte site. And then finally concluding with an opportunity for questions and answers. Just a quick definition. Composting is the aerobic decomposition of organic materials to produce a stable humus-like material. I like to focus on 2 things. First, aerobic. In the presence of oxygen, you're mitigating the potential for odor generation. So this is really the crux of the matter here for us, because what we're proposing is an aerated system. What that does is, in the presence of oxygen, you're not getting that generation of what are generally odorous compounds. Second, I'd like to emphasize that it's a stable product. The product that we produce is a good finished quality product that really is a nutrient for the soil. And I'd like to just emphasize, again, we're looking at recycling yard clippings, yard waste materials. We view finished compost, again, as a soil resource, as an alternative to what could normally be used for that kind of thing, like chemical fertilizers, providing a more natural source of nitrogen and phosphorus for soil additives. So, composting generally consists of kind of these four parameters, really three coming together to form this fourth, the feedstock recipe. So we're looking at a balance of carbon and nitrogen. These are kind of buzzwords in the composting industry. And we want to basically create an initial mix of material that really is going to be giving us the best product at the end. Now, relative to operating a successful site, these things are critical. So we want to establish a good carbon to nitrogen ratio, a good bulk density, and we want a good bulk density to have pile porosity, get the air flowing where it needs to go, and a really suitable moisture content. And these things working together to form our recipe. I just included these two kind of definitions more as a thought. So currently in New York State, solid waste regulations do not allow yard clippings to go to solid waste management facilities like landfills. So you have to look to alternatives to manage this material in a sustainable way. One of the ways to do that sustainably is through composting. Second, I had a note here which was kind of interesting to me, is that you can actually divert net carbon dioxide production through composting process. Well, that's kind of funny. So how does that happen, right? So you're actually generating some carbon emissions through the process, but the net benefit is that you could actually offset that. And that's been proven by various agencies. You see here a comment from the European Commission's working group on organic matter. Now, I guess just kind of what I've outlined here is just the 6 general steps and some photographic examples of what we envision for this site. So first, material would be weighed on a scale. We need to get a sense of the material coming in and out. That's very important to us as we control the material that's coming in. Second, I showed a typical picture here of a yard waste stockpile from another composting site. Now, this looks like a pile of yard waste, but the intent here is to manage that material very quickly. We don't want it to stay here because we want to produce compost. So we jump to the third step in the process, and I'm showing here blowers, aeration blowers. This is the aerated static pile composting system we're proposing at this site. And like I said earlier, as we can add air into the piles, this is really taking advantage of a more expeditious way to help to manage the organic decomposition of this material. Finally, there's a curing, maturing stage. After you've composted, you're not done yet. You have to jump to this maturing stage. It's actually going to stay on the site for another 30 to 50 days where the material can be able to stabilize and mature. Then you have a screening step. The screening step is to get the fines that you want. When you go to a Lowe's or a Home Depot to buy your bag of compost, you generally want it to look like soil, so you need to screen out what they call the over materials, take out the larger wood particles, and that's really where we're getting our finished product. Finally, we're looking to stockpile the material for sale and distribution. Now, I just want to show here an example of where we are tonight in the town court. And the project site is down here at the very bottom of the screen off of State Route 22. It's 3501 State Route 22, as Anthony mentioned earlier. This is a close-up of our site. You see Route 22, along the frontage of the property. It's an existing site surrounded by trees. Our intent is to remain in the area that's currently cleared of trees, so we're not disturbing any habitat that's around the perimeter of the site. What we really want to be able to do here is take advantage of the existing cleared areas for our proposed composting operation. There's an existing house here that will remain. It will become an operations hub just for like an office space. I'm just showing some photographs here I won't go through this with too much depth, but you'll see that there's a perimeter of trees around the site. That's providing a benefit of buffer for visual as well as for odor control. You see here the small residence that was highlighted on the other site plan. And this is a view out towards State Route 22, towards the site entrance. Now, relative to environmental controls, I know that there's been a good emphasis here tonight on how are we going to mitigate the potential impacts to the aquifer. And I think that I'd like to focus on these 4 areas relative to groundwater, surface water, odor control, and operations management. Now, I'm showing here the stormwater pond because what's envisioned for our site is something similar. We've actually found that at composting sites they can be suitable for creation of wetlands or stormwater treatment systems and for managing the runoff from the composting site. So I mentioned earlier that there are state regulations for composting facilities. They fall under what's called 6 NYCRR Part 360. I'd encourage you all to look there because I think that they're very specific and help to address some of your concerns relative to how this site will need to be developed. I've just taken a note here relative to separation to groundwater and bedrock. The state requirements require that we have at least 5 feet of separation. If we don't, then we're required to line stormwater systems and also operate on impervious surfaces. And that's what I'm trying to demonstrate here by way of this picture. So essentially we have an asphalt composting pad and a stormwater runoff treatment system for storage and maintenance of any runoff from the composting areas. This project site is in Maryland. We'd envisioned something similar for the Baltamonte compost site, a similar impervious asphalt pad, because the intent is to capture any water that would rain or fall in the piles, any precipitation, and maintain it on the surface. You use an impervious asphalt pad so that it doesn't penetrate through and doesn't affect your groundwater resources. And again, this stormwater pond, under the DEC regulations, we'd evaluate it further as part of the design, but we would look at whether or not that needed to be lined. Once again, we're looking at surface water control. The state requirements would mandate that we manage the runoff from the site associated with the 10-year 1-hour storm. In the town of Amenia, when you look at precipitation, that's about 1.6 inches per hour. So it represents a very high intensity rainfall, very indicative of what they call first flush. If you've heard of the terminology of first flush, that's generally associated with the highest level of contaminants. Well, that's what we're required to manage. What we would be doing is we'd be looking at controlling it by drainage systems that would be sent to a stormwater pond, as I showed on the previous slide. Finally, relative to odor control, as I mentioned earlier, we'd be looking at an aerated static pile composting system. This is an example of a pilot scale system, but what I want to emphasize here is a couple things. So first, it's a blower system. It's controlled by a control system that relays oxygen. It's measuring the oxygen and the temperature of the pile, and it's relaying that back to the blower so that the blower knows how much air it needs to send. And that's doing 2 things. One, it's maintaining the aerobic conditions we need so we're not producing odors. And 2, it's producing that really nice, stable aerobic decomposition process that we're looking for. And again, if you don't control these things, you don't get a good finished compost product. Our intent is, and Anthony's intent would be to have a marketable, sellable compost product. In order to do that, we need to be sure we're managing the system correctly. And I'd just like to clarify here, so this is going to what they call a header pipe to a lateral pipe, which would be perforated, and then the compost material would be constructed over top of that perforated pipe. Finally, relative to DEC requirements, like I said earlier, there's a very detailed permit application process we'll be completing after the environmental review. This consists of operations and maintenance plan. How are you going to run the facility day to day? It consists of an engineering report relative to the design of all of these facilities, a stormwater pollution prevention plan so that we're managing surface water runoff in accordance with the state's requirements, and finally a contingency plan, really the fail-safe of all of this to answer the what-ifs and to address contingency measures. So relative to similar project examples, I have two. This first slide is actually in New Zealand, and I know that's very far away, but what I wanted to just illustrate here is the concept of this compost process. So they're using what's called an extended aerated static pile system. So here you see that there's no separation between adjacent piles. You essentially have a mass of this material. Well, this is what we're proposing, and the reason is it actually serves to absorb a lot of the precipitation that falls on the pile. So first, we're gonna create basically a sponge on the ground because our piles need water to process. Second, we'll intercept any water with an impervious operating surface to protect the groundwater resources. This facility is more near to where we are. This is in upstate New York in Syracuse, a facility that GHG designed. I envision that the Balfamonte compost site would be somewhere in between the realm of these two facilities in terms of technology. What I did want to show here is that there's a covered building. We envision at some point in time as part of the site's development that there would be a covered building really to get the finished product out of precipitation, and that does a benefit to us by creating a more marketable product. Also shown here, you see this is a little more sophisticated. There's concrete bunkers. We don't envision that for the Balfamonte site. This is for food waste composting. The level of technology shown here would not necessarily be required for a yard waste facility to run correctly, but what we did want to highlight is this collection trench at the front, which is again managing any runoff from the piles to a central collection system to keep stormwater and runoff clean. Relative to local benefits, I'll let Anthony certainly answer some more of your questions in regards to this topic, but we do see this as a local business, as an opportunity for tax revenue. We see it as an opportunity for residents to use this to drop off their yard waste material if you have it, and also an opportunity to obtain a good finished compost product to be used at your leisure. I would like to emphasize here, there's a U.S. Composting Council. This is a national recognized industry, and what they do is they provide a seal of testing assurance, or STA quality. This is a very high level of compost quality. This is what we want to do at this site. We're not just a guy trying to go out and do whatever we want. We really want to create a good finished compost product and really be respectful of the community's resources. I just would like to kind of conclude my presentation, I guess, with a few points moving forward, and I would defer to the town relative to discussions on these, but we have submitted the full environmental assessment form that is, I understand, available at the town's website for everyone to download. We do understand that there would be a need to revise the zoning code to issue a zoning code text amendment to allow composting facilities in the OC district. And we do understand that there's some talk relative to hydrogeological assessment. Relative to that, I would just like to clarify that we've never ever had to perform a hydrogeological assessment for a yard waste composting facility. I understand that this is more indicative of a landfill siting. Again, this is not a landfill siting. This is for yard waste material. It's a recyclable commodity. And I'd like to emphasize that in our opinion, we do not think that that would be required. Although we value the aquifer as a resource, again, we're managing all water as surface water. And I would just ask the question of what the outcomes of that might be. Well, we might confirm the presence of the aquifer. We might confirm that there's groundwater, but we've seen yard waste composting facilities to both operate successfully and environmentally responsibly in hydrogeologically sensitive areas. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions? We can could you wait till the microphone gets to you? Do you have the handheld microphone? Okay, could you hand it? Well, go ahead.
I'm getting the slide up that I have a question.
Was it this
No, no, it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I have a question on like number 4 and number 5 on that screen. I have a friend that actually lived in Vermont, and they built on her, off her family property, wood chipping. And on a really good day, her house was full of wood chips because the wind would blow it in her direction. They didn't think of that. And I'm looking at screen number 5, and I'm seeing Lynn's house, and I'm like going, okay, we have a really good windy day. And you're also saying like it's separating the good from the bad. Where is the bad going? That's my first question. And second is, on a really good windy day, where is that stuff ending up?
Do you want me to? I feel like I can.
I'm going to step in. I'm just going to stand here.
Okay. Well, I'll let Anthony share as well, but relative to the screened over materials, where is it going? So that's actually a heavier material. And the material here, when you screen it, is actually you're controlling that by adding moisture to that process. So you mitigate the potential for dust by introducing moisture. And I'd also like to just, I guess what we could show maybe is those photographs of the perimeter of the site. But around the site there are a stand of trees. And our intent is to operate well within the boundary of those trees for 2 reasons. I guess to create a setback from the boundary of the site. And the trees also serve to provide a natural buffer for dust control, and will also be required to apply water as necessary for dust control.
Someone else?
Okay. Thank you for your question. Appreciate that.
Hi, I just want to say one thing. Pardon me?
Identify yourself.
Robert Lugo. Tally Hill. Wait. I want to say one thing. You've already bought the property and everything and started doing this, or
No.
you're waiting for them to give you the zoning board?
We haven't begun any composting at the site yet,
But you
no.
bought the property.
We're doing what we're allowed to do.
Anthony, yes, Mr. Anthony Bolfamonte owns this property.
If you wrote it down, what's going to happen with the property? Now, what about the trucks that come in and out? And that place will be open 24/7.
Who told you that? I'm sorry, sir. Who told you that?
I'm just saying. I'm just guessing
I'm
like
asking you,
everybody else.
who told you that information?
I'm just guessing.
It will not be open 24 hours. It will be open normal business hours, and that will be negotiable with the town.
And what happened in Westchester that this wasn't done there?
We don't have the room in Westchester.
Thank you.
That's why I bought a 60-acre parcel in the town of Amenia. Is it okay if we just sort of do this together, question and answer?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We need to answer.
But
I
I would rather, if you're answering a question, could you, come up to the microphone? Okay, you two can switch
Okay,
out.
I have to sort of do this in tandem.
Okay.
Okay.
So Mark Doyle again from 320 South Amenia Road. So whilst clearly you appreciate the potential impact to the groundwater and to the aquifer by stating that you're going to put the impervious blacktop underneath the piles, you are draining any water that falls on that blacktop into a stormwater pond.
Yes.
Now, you stated that the DEC regulations state that you would only need to line it if you had less than 5 feet of, distance between that and so on. So the problem is, even if you go ahead and line it, you then have to say where exactly is the water going to go when it overflows. Because I'm going to finish. Because the only place that water can go, if we're truly concerned about it going into the aquifer, is for it to evaporate. So therefore, you're now going to have to do a calculation which allows you to control an extraordinary amount of water.
Yes. Okay. I would like to respond to that. Number one, the pond will collect the additional water that the pile does not absorb. The impervious surface would allow any leachate, which is the liquid that's going to come off the pile, be collected, run downstream not run upstream to our nice friendly neighbors at Tally Ho. So that will never, ever in a million years happen. Water does not flow upstream. I want to make sure everybody's clear on that, number one. Number two, the line pond is regulated by... Sir, I'm answering your question. I would appreciate if you listened.
Yes, I'm listening.
Okay, I would really appreciate that. The water that's collected in the pond is regulated by the DEC. An extremely large retainer is held by the DEC. Extremely large monetary retainer. At any point, the pond reaches capacity. It will need to be pumped and trucked off-site at my expense. In the event I do not fulfill this, the money is used for my retainer to perform that service. This is all information. A small problem this evening, many people have not been up to speed and have not been to any of the meetings. I would love to spend as much time as possible this evening and clarify any and all questions. And one question I have before the next question comes my way is, I would like to ask anyone in this room who does not have a water filter system in their house for this beautiful, clear water. That my wife was hospitalized with parasites, and we had the water tested at my house, that my kids drink the water, sulfate rates near toxic. Don't think that we want to contaminate this water. The water off the piles will be collected, retained. The water will be used to rehydrate the piles. I need to sell this material at 50-60% hydration. The pile will accept 100% until it's saturated, and then it will expel. I will never say it will not expel a leachate, but it will be collected and handled properly by regulations of the DEC. We're not cowboys. We're out in the open. We want to do this legally and as clean as possible for all residents. I own a house there. My kids spend a lot of time in that house. I'm not looking to destroy this neighborhood by any means. I need to utilize the property. That is a perfect site, and it's been stated it's a perfect site. Unfortunately, I cannot have anything legally in writing from the DEC, and I can show you emails on my phone. They cannot write anything in writing in enforcing, encouraging my facility. That is illegal for them to do. They have visited my site twice. I've had a pre-application meeting. They are totally fine. We need to have a comfort level with the town, the residents, and the board to go to the next level. If the town was not involved, if the local law did not supersede the state, my permit would have been issued July 20th of 2015. And I'm open to all questions, and I would love to answer and spend as much time as we possibly can. Sure, sir.
Just to be clear, the pad will be made out of, you said
Did
asphalt?
you have the-
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Graham Spearman. I'm your neighbor.
Yes.
So,
I'm sorry, to the north, south?
Towards Amenia, thank you.
Okay, no, okay, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So, one thing, the pad will be made out of asphalt, right?
The pad, yes.
Impermeable
Yes.
pad? Have you ever known asphalt to be impermeable?
Yes, I'm actually a landscape contractor.
Okay.
And I'm going to say between 350 and 500,000 square feet of asphalt a year. There is a permeable mix and there's an impermeable mix.
How much of that work is repairing cracks?
Repairing cracks? I don't repair cracks.
I think all of us have seen people repairing cracks in asphalt. That's an aside.
Absolutely.
The real question
Absolutely.
is...
We're putting down a Marify non-porous fabric first. Then there's a bed of item 4. If you're familiar with road construction, I can give you shop drawings.
No, I'm
and then
familiar.
there's binder and there's a top course.
Okay, so you're expecting there to be no frost heaves, no cracks over time. Heavy equipment driving over this.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. A crack? Absolutely. There's going to be a crack.
It's impressive.
Is it going to go down?
For our highway department.
The fabric will never allow water to penetrate. And the fabric is the first layer.
Yeah, exactly.
The fabric is the first layer.
Number 2, you said that the water will not travel down towards Tally Ho?
Correct.
So it's going to move north towards Amenia proper and through my property?
No, it's not. It's going west.
It's going west.
It's going west.
Towards what, 10 Mile River?
If you want to come in my driveway, you're welcome anytime you want.
The other way.
And see the
I'm not good at
elevation.
directions. Towards the mountain.
If you want to see the elevation difference, I can give you a copy of our topographical geographical map with the existing topographical elevations. We are about 6 feet higher on Route 22, headed west towards the foot of the mountain, which is the lowest point on my property.
Okay.
At that point, it cannot move from there.
So where does it go? Straight
It
down?
stays in the pond, in a lined pond. Have you ever seen a lined pond?
I have.
Okay.
My neighbor has an unlined pond, which fills naturally from a spring because the water is so close to the surface on our land. And that's adjacent to your property, which suggests that the water level is extremely high, which suggests that it's a very easy track down to the aquifer. So I would assume that a hydrogeological assessment, which would be nice to have, would show that there's very easy permeability through the bedrock, through the gravel, because it used to be a gravel pit, essentially, at one point in time in this land. And so I don't see how we can have ultimate faith in an impermeable asphalt pad with fabric underlying it. And item 4, which I would assume would puncture the geological, the geofabric.
Would you say the cows next door manure is not affecting anything?
Tim is actually really good. He uses completely organic practices. He doesn't put any pesticides
I'm asking you a
down.
question. Is the manure from the cows next door to your property not contaminating the water supply?
I would not believe so, no.
No?
I would put that into natural. If the cows were given hormones and fed non-organic...
Are they eating grass?
Yeah, they're grass-fed.
What am I processing, sir?
I have 250 pounds of it in my freezer.
What am I processing?
You're processing yard waste.
Okay.
Now,
what are the cows
your
eating?
Nitrogen and
What are the cows
carbon
eating?
ratio, they eat grass, but that's different because that's organic. Now, nitrogen carbon ratio of 30 to 1 or 40 to 1 it's a good mix. But, you know, if you're using yard waste, I'm assuming it's a lot of woody debris, right? Which means that then you have to mix in a lot of nitrogen to actually get it to do anything, especially in that 30-day time period. The blowers would help. There's no question there. They heat it, they run the air through it, but you're not going to break through that woody debris in 30 days, which means you have a lot longer holding period, or you're not really processing a lot of woody debris. It's more nitrogenous materials, which would be literally grass clippings or sludge mixed in.
There's no sludge. I don't know where this conception of sludge came into place. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes,
sure.
Please.
I'd like to my name is Beth Ann Smith. I'm with GHD. I'm a senior geotechnical engineer. So one of the things that I want to address is the hydrogeologic assessment. We're not really doing a hydrogeologic assessment, but we are assessing depth to groundwater, what the soils are, that information, which is used to engineer control, look at the pond, what we need to do with the pond, different things like that. So we do obtain subsurface information to do that. It's just not going in, putting monitoring wells, taking samples, doing stuff like that.
So you're not doing samples?
I'm not going to say we're not doing samples, but as a rule, this is a clean site. So
that's precisely why we like it.
We don't need to do that. If DEC comes back and requests it, or there is a request for that, then we discuss it and discuss the merit of it versus the risk of it and what's going on. So I won't stand here and tell you we're not going to do that, but I will stand here and tell you that as a course of action, we don't typically have to do that. We do have to look at where groundwater is, if there's bedrock close by, and what the soils are, so that we can engineer what we're putting on the site. So that was that. The question about the woody debris, and that's why you mix the grass clippings and some of the other yard waste with the woody debris, and that's why we screen it to get that oversized woody debris out of there and then put it back in, so eventually it'll break down. But I'm sorry if I'm not talking into the microphone. But eventually, that's how you treat that.
So, in your estimation, how long does it take for woody debris to actually break down?
It depends on the size of it.
No.
You know
it's
that
a pretty
as well
straightforward
as I
thing.
do.
Woody debris, you're talking years before it really breaks down.
If you...
Depends on the chip size, for sure.
Right,
But are
exactly.
we having
So
wood chippers
it does
going here
depend
too?
on the size, it depends on how well it's chipped, and it depends on how you treat it.
Will there be
So-
wood chippers on the property?
Absolutely.
So we have
Well-
wood chippers, excavators, bulldozers to move it, blowers to actually be running constantly, right?
No.
When would they be running?
4 out of every 60 minutes.
That sounds pretty constant to me.
4 out of every 60 minutes?
4 out of every 16 minutes would be...
4 out of every 60.
60, okay. That's not as
Yeah,
constant,
4
but it's
minutes
still
out of an hour.
literally
It's on a cycle.
going on throughout the entire day.
Absolutely, and they're silent.
I would love to hear a silent fan.
Can I comment to that? So I showed earlier a photo of the blower in a kind of dog
In a
house,
box,
in
yeah.
a box structure. What that does is it really does contain noise. I guess you might be concerned about the noise from the blower. Even though they might be cycling through the evening time, they would be cycling through the evening time, and it's contained in that box. I mean, you're not going to hear it if you're standing next to it. I've been there, I've seen it. You're not going to hear that blower.
So is it possible to get an audiological study showing how much sound we're actually be getting from all this equipment?
Decibel rating on the blower prior to installation.
Through
For the equipment too?
calculations, you can very readily determine that it's of no concern.
For the heavy equipment?
For the heavy equipment, it would be operating during the daytime, during normal operating times, which are defined by the DEC permit as 7 a.m. to 5 p.m.
So you're 1,800 feet away from me right now?
I don't know where your actual equipment is going to be going, but
On my site, at any location on my site, you're about 1,800 feet away.
I can't imagine that's the case.
How long have you been in the home?
I've been in the home for 18 months.
18 months? Have you ever heard anything?
Well, I mean, I hear things from...
I'm asking you a question. Have you
I
ever heard
hear...
anything from my property?
Well, no, because you're not
Okay,
doing
so I've done
anything
6 times
substantial
in the
there
last
right
year.
now.
I've run the equipment 6 times in the last year.
Okay.
There's a 500-yard stockpile right now. Drop the gate, go in my driveway, go smell it. Tell me the odors, and then tell me the beautiful compost. I'm allowed to do 3,000 yards a year with no permit, no regulation. I've been doing like 500, 600, sometimes 1,000 yards a year. It's allowed legally on any piece of property.
And that's a substantial difference from doing 100,000
Absolutely.
yards.
If you want to look at the sample
We're
pile.
talking about an order of magnitude
No, I
difference.
understand, but if a sample, right? A sample's a sample.
Sure.
There's grass, there's clippings, yard waste, wood chips, everything you're saying that's bad is in the pile. It's right at the end of the driveway, right when my pond is proposed, there's a pile. Drop the gate, go in anytime you want. Anybody here has permission to enter my property at any point. No one will ever throw out my property. It's right where the leachate pond is proposed. I have a sample pile there. Same feedstock. It's going to be much larger, absolutely, but it's there. So if a big pile smells, a little pile smells. There's grass, yard clippings, dead flowers, chips, all in the pile, stockpiled it up with no aeration. This is all Mother Nature. I've turned the pile maybe once, and I alternate the pile from year to year.
Is there any way for you to guarantee that your products are coming in without any pesticides on them?
If there's any pesticide present in the heating, curing process, they're gone, they're dissipated. They're burnt out.
I'd like to see the study on that.
Excuse me?
I would like to see the study on that.
I'm not
The
sure.
temperatures that
I
you
need
reach
to
in a
give you study.
pile.
I
No,
would
no,
study.
no. The board is
Absolutely.
likely.
Absolutely.
But you're talking about what? An internal temperature of 140, 170, but a lot of chemicals
170.
survive that.
Yeah, well, it's going to be under 150.
Okay. So
150 for 5 steady days. We have active fungal composting being taking place, and then it can go into our curing pile, where it would sit, be screened, and the concern about odors, the dust on your sink. The overs are, if you're familiar with the two-fraction, can you go back to that 6th picture? If you don't mind, I know we're jumping around, but I think it's good that we have this whole composition. I just want to make one thing clear about things flying in the air. I can explain to you very easily on a piece of equipment. And I'm sorry, how far away do you live from the property?
I'm in Tally House.
You're in Tahoe, so you're a quarter mile south of me?
But, you know, the wind does travel.
No, I'm just asking a question. We're gonna have a Q&A, so let's have it. Okay, so this is a 2-fraction machine, this being 1 fraction. The other fraction, which David referred to as the overs, is a larger bulk of material. So obviously with yard waste, grass, wood chips, anything that's not desirable comes out the other end of the machine and stays right there, about 30 feet from the machine. You're about a quarter mile south of me. But about 30 feet away from the machine is, we call it the overs. It's the heavier, non-desirable material that I don't want in my finished material, which will be for sale. This is a finely screened. That product will then be ground again, fine, and then put into the curing pile, and happens all over again. And I'd like to ask you as well now. When I first purchased the property, I had a tremendous composting operation.
I just moved up there.
Okay.
I just moved
All
up
right,
there, so I wouldn't
okay.
know.
Well, if there's anyone else that was nearby in the time I did my last operation, and just see if we had any other complaints to the town or...
Yeah, but you're talking
Super-
about, you were just doing a composting. Now we're talking about composting.
No, I cleared the entire 20 acres of the front, which was a non-default, it was a default nursery. So the trees had grown to maturity, grew in, and to make the land usable, because our first intention was to make it a tree farm. Until we realized the topsoil is not there, I can't grow trees effectively, the deer's decimated in the last 3 winters, so we just want to make proper use agriculturally out of the property. And the misconception about solid waste, DEC, that's a new terminology. It was always composting under agriculture for years and years and years. It's just classified on the solid waste because it is we're in a facility where we're accepting waste to be processed, and that's the category that we're in.
But if this
There's
starts...
no sludge, there's no...
But if this ends up being, because I just keep seeing my girlfriend's house with the sawdust everywhere. If this ends up being like, not for Talia, but anybody else around, where it's blowing, the wind is blowing, and it's blowing debris, because it looks, I don't know, I see a picture that looks like it's gonna be blowing debris on a nice windy day like today. It's not gonna come down.
When can you take a ride with me?
And I have
When
a
can you take a ride with
question.
me?
I have a question about your trucks.
Sure.
How many trucks a day is going to be coming through? And where?
5, 6.
And where is the
Excuse
opening?
me, just let the people speak who are speaking, so
where-
everyone can hear.
And where
Thank
is
you.
the driveway in? Is it off at 22?
Yes.
Is it going to be off at 343?
No,
Where is it?
22.
It's off at 22.
It's directly, I'm on Route 22, I'm not on 343.
And you're saying it's only going to be 5 or 6 trucks?
In the busy season. That's 600 cubic yards. That's 3,000 cubic yards.
5 or 6 trucks. Are we going to get this in writing that it's only 5 or 6
I'm
trucks?
regulated by the DEC. I'm on a certified scale. Oh, hold on a second. Wait, 1 second. Where's the scale? Okay. You see this?
Can I comment to the truck?
Yes. Just give me 1 second. Do you see this here? That's a monitoring. My scale is directly wired to DEC. Every truck that comes in there, a ticket is automatically emailed to the DEC. I'm only allowed, after all the town conversations, now the DEC tells me what I'm really going to do. So they've already got a quantity that's acceptable to them for the size of my facility and proximity to my neighbors. I can't go over it. Every truck comes in has to hit that scale and get weighed. Every single truck has to get weighed, gets dumped, and if the truck is loaded and goes out, it has to get monitored. Yes?
I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, so another story that I'm writing this week is about the vultures. Actually, they had to put to death, unfortunately, euthanize 40 vultures at the Trevor Zoo. And I just have an email from our reporter up in Millerton, and I just want to read it to you if I can find it. His name is Tom Parrott, and he writes for Newsweek, and he's a very reputable reporter. And he's telling me that up at the in his neck of the woods,
Yes, McEnroe Farms.
McEnroe Farms.
Right, which accepts food waste, which we're not
Right,
doing.
they have food waste from the CIA, and they have a lot of vultures up there
Yes.
occasionally. And that
40 to 60 a day.
That's 40 to 60 a day. And
Yes.
they've been in large groups.
Yes.
And it's actually been a problem
It's a huge problem.
for the area. It says vultures are occasionally attracted in large numbers, kettles in flight. When McEnroe composting operation leaves piles of meat-laden garbage it gets from the CIA exposed. It's supposed to cover the freshly arrived stuff with sawdust, according to the DEC permit. But vultures are also opportunistic predators and are landing on local composting areas at a small chicken, goose, and sheep farm. I'm not going to name the person, but it's another farm up in Millerton. So I'm just wondering about predators and vultures, because
Absolutely.
their poop and their throw up is rather toxic.
Absolutely. I'm not permitted, or I'm applying for food waste on my facility. McEnroe is supposed to take in 25%, so the Culinary Institute is actually the smallest customer. Royal Waste out of Hollis, Queens actually brings 2 to 3 trucks there a day out of their depackaging facility in Hollis, Queens. I'm very good friends with the owners. They want to dump at my place. Obviously, we've had the conversation. There is no food waste allowed on my facility. It's not permitted. I'm not looking for it. It is a great bulking agent, and I would have loved to have that even in a closed building, but that conversation was closed day one. No food waste. Ma'am, you'll get a chance. I see your hand waving.
I have one other question.
Sure.
Will you have an equal amount of leaves to green? Because they say you have to have both, leaves and green.
Well, we're going to have a secret recipe.
Yeah,
We're going for an extremely high-end product.
And have you heard of the thing in Pauling that's called Sweet Pete?
Absolutely. He's being run illegally. That's an illegal site.
Oh, okay, because there's a gravel miner in our area, in Holbach,
Mm-hmm.
who said that was rather a kind of weird putrid smell of that Sweet Pete.
It's a great finished product.
And it's great, but the people who live near it said that it didn't smell good.
I install thousands of yards of it. It's a great finished product. The site is being run illegally. There will be some DEC involvement on that facility and other illegal mulch yards in the town of Amenia. Right now, wood products are non-regulated by the DEC.
Okay.
So you sort of can't stop them right now. The wood product that he's accepting, the newspapers, there's not an issue, it's non-regulated. The amount of horse and cow manure being brought in there is totally off the charts. That site is totally being run illegally.
Now, Mr. Buffalmonte, I just wanted to say to you, because I think you've done a really great job in trying to get everything together, and I know you're really doing your due diligence.
Thank you.
But there's a lot of history in the Harlem Valley of illegal dumping, and we've just finished cleaning up the old Amenia landfill.
I'm aware.
Particularly in Dover Plains, there was the Bronx recycling that went to the Dutchess County Supreme Court, which still actually hasn't been cleaned up. Governor Cuomo got involved. That was Sal Casino. It was up in Copake as well.
I know the gentleman. I know the situation. Did he stand before this board and ask for permission to do that? It was done illegally.
It was, okay, so
I'm doing nothing illegal.
Okay, so that was but this particular area has been targeted for solid waste for years.
Did Mr. Casino stand before you and ask for permission to dump illegal waste?
If you're feeling, I just want to say, if you're feeling a sense of camera shyness from this board and from the public,
yes,
a lot of it may be because of the history in the Harlem Valley. So, don't take it personally.
No, I won't.
But that's really
it has nothing to do with me.
The story here, and I was actually, one of the whistleblowers for the old Amenia landfill situation, and it cost $12.2 million to clean that up. So it was a really serious situation. So I just ask you to really consider that, that's what we're facing here, and we don't look favorably on people from Westchester and Down County coming to Dutchess and bringing
to dump the garbage. I got
it. That's where we're at. I'm just sorry, but that's the fact.
I understand totally, and thank you for your time.
I'll tell you, well, first of all, I don't need this. I'm Italian, I'm very melodious when I speak. I do, okay. Oh, dear God. The thing that bothers me the most is, this is gonna set a precedent. And I know it's gonna set a precedent. We have such beautiful land. We have farms that have gone under. And look at the land we have. What are we bringing into this place? He has his property, I understand, he put this on. I don't even know how that even came about, that you went and put this on your land. You bought this land to put this on later on. This is gonna go into something else. If he's allowed, everybody else is gonna come. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry all over the place is gonna come. They're gonna wanna make this. And what's gonna happen to us? Really, what is going to happen? This is a precedent, and it's up to the board. I'm not speaking to this man. He's only doing what he feels he has to do. There's an opportunity. I didn't realize he lived here.
I don't live there. I own the house.
Oh, okay.
It's our weekend house.
Misunderstood. That makes it even worse. Okay.
Does it?
Why don't we have this town really be something else than what it really is now? You need revenue. You need tax revenue. Bring some people in.
Who?
Bring some homes. I'm not talking to you, Mr. Bullifant.
Okay.
I'm sorry I can't pronounce your name. I'm
Buffalmonte,
so
it's okay.
sorry. With this is, I am Italian. I'm Sicilian. And we don't want it. That's why I'm asking the board, don't let this happen. We're gonna have more come in. Not only his plants, it'll be all kinds of plants. What is this place gonna look like? We have Dover has a name like all the poor that live there and all. Do you know what money is in this area, ladies and gentlemen? There's a lot of money here, trust me.
More than you know.
Excuse me?
More than you know.
Yes, there is. We don't want it shitted up in plain English.
There's a lot of mansions.
Wait a minute. It's the board's problem, really.
I'm going to speak from a little bit of experience because I live south of the Allen property. I smell it in the summertime. There was a fire there this summer that for a week we were smelling this smoldering, didn't know what it was. I see trucks in there all times of the year, 11:30 at night, midnight. I see the white plastic bags. I just feel like even myself, and I'm not blaming the town board, and who regulates this? I call the DEC, the DEC puts me back to the town says DEC. I don't really know who's regulating it. And as far as what this lady was saying about precedent, she's right. I think it does set a precedent, but I think we also have to remember, too, that a lot of wealthy people are buying up our farms. They are taking huge ag exemptions, huge forest exemptions, putting things into conservancies, and guess what? If the school tax is $20 million, it's $20 million. So if they get their exemptions, the rest of us are paying for this. So we may not want, people are complaining about Silo Ridge, didn't want a shopping center years ago, they're stopping at Hannaford's in Millerton, don't want this. I mean, some decisions truly do have to be made because we need a tax base. Or we, as the middle class in Amenia, will not live here anymore. It will be owned by very wealthy people who have very expensive farms, very expensive, and it's all in the name of tourism and keeping open space. But it's not helping us as taxpayers.
Thank you for your concern.
I want to say two things.
Can I respond to her comments?
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. The facility that you referenced, is that a state DEC regulated facility?
No, town might know. I would say no. I don't really.
Okay, we will be. We will be.
Yes.
We cannot open our doors without proper permission and regulations.
But it goes back to the fact that this lady here was talking about smelling it.
Yes.
Smell it.
Okay.
There's
I've
really not many ways.
I've been on that property and I know the property very well. I've actually flown over it quite a few times.
Right.
It's not an aerated static pile. It's an old world type of facility where it's just stockpiled. It's turned. When you turn it, smoke travels forever. Our facility is not designed to be performed. There are facilities. They're not far away. They could be viewed. They're actually, that's Okra. That's actually a state municipality. That's Syracuse, so that's Okra. It's Onondaga County, right? It's Onondaga County facility. So the state would never give them permission, and a municipality would never perform something that's going to be harmful to the neighbors. That's in Syracuse, New York. Greg Golinsky, who runs the facility, we've asked him to come down tonight. It's a 4-hour trip. He couldn't make it. He's a board member of the U.S. Compost Council. Actually, I just came back from a conference. This year was in Jacksonville. Last year was in Austin, Texas. I'm a member, and we will not sell any product without this seal of testing assurance. We're going for the highest quality product. There's no odor, there's no smell, and there's no dust. This is a highly engineered technical approach. This is a modern approach to composting.
If that's what you're saying, but like I said, I live south of the Allen property, and I deal with all those things. So when this lady was saying that she has concerns, she's validated in those concerns, because that is what we see. And Moody Hill and Millerton, that was a fight for many, many years. And again, trucks going in at midnight, which raises the question of what this gentleman said about pesticides, what's really in the truck. Who's checking the trucks when they go in? Is there some sort of system so that you're going to those trucks are going to be tested to see actually what is in those trucks coming in?
I cannot pass my qualifications with pesticide levels in our product. Our products are generated generally from not most, but a lot of public parks in New York City, which are 100% organic. You can go on any website, New York Parks Department, 100% organic. Columbia University, Fordham University, two of my largest clients, we cannot compost in place. There's no room in New York City to do this. It's 100% organic facilities. There's 30 to 40,000 students sitting, eating lunch every day on my lawns. There's about 15,000 people in Madison Square Park every day. There's 80,000 people on an 85-acre site, Brooklyn Bridge Park, one of my larger clients. We cannot leave grass clippings there. We re-landscape the parks. We change the flowers. I run 15 business improvement districts in Manhattan. We do 5 seasonal change-outs. The flowers come out, we put them in the back of the truck, they go to other compost facilities right now. They'll be going to this facility, as well as many other similar scenarios. It's 100% organic. Will there be a lawn clipping that might have a pesticide application on a residential property that might land there? Absolutely. The composting process, the way it's engineered, eliminates the entire presence of pesticide in my product. It cannot leave my facility with that presence in our product. The contamination is burnt away. And that can be all in writing. There's numerous manuals on this. Numerous. Yes, sir.
The trucks are going to be running at night and day?
No. Only during the day.
Only during the day?
Only during the day.
What time to what time?
My business hours are usually 6 to 6. If it has to be 7 to 6, I think we can have a negotiation as we come closer.
And
I can't send my workers out 24 hours a day. My workers work the day.
one more thing. You're here to make money, right?
We're in America?
Yeah.
I'm here to make money.
Okay. No, I just wanted to know because
And I'm here and I'm spending quite a bit of money to open this
let
facility.
me tell you something.
Hard-earned money.
I used to deal with Donald Trump, Mayor Bloomberg, and all of them down in the city, Cushman and Wakefield. I know them all.
Those are all my clients. They're all my clients.
Yeah.
I can get any one of those 3 people on the phone right now. I don't know what that has to do with this facility.
No, I'm just letting you know. You're throwing out a lot of names and things, and I can throw them right out.
Yeah, those are all my clients. Those are all my clients right now, presently.
We don't want a precedent. I want you to think about that.
So New York State is a municipal home rule state, which means that...
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I'm
My
sorry.
name is Nina Peak. I live at 610 Old Route 22. So New York State is a municipal home rule state. Not every state has municipal home rule. We happen to have that privilege, which means that our town boards, our village boards, our city councils regulate our land uses. So the reason why you're in front of this board right now is to ask this board to change our law to allow you to operate this facility on your property that you currently own. Which begs the question, if you're currently doing this on your property, if you had a much larger operation 5 years ago where you were doing this, and you're currently composting on your property, it is illegal based on our town law. Yes, as a matter of fact, it is.
It's not.
Similarly, the operation that's across the street from Jeannie and Brad's house is also illegal based on our town regulations. If it were legal, you would not need for this town board to change the law to allow your operation. Now, whether you're applying to DEC for a Section 360 permit, which is a solid waste management permit, is ultimately irrelevant at this point, because in order for you to have this operation, our town board needs to change our law to allow you to have this operation. So when you say to this room and everyone on television that you are not currently doing anything that is illegal, that is in fact not true. Our law does not allow composting and or solid waste management by a private operator at present.
3,000 yards are allowed legally by the town, county, and state. You do not have your information correct.
No,
I will contest you to any capacity you would like. I will contest you to any capacity you would like. 3,000 yards. 3,000 yards. Ma'am, would you like to contest this? 3,000 yards. 3,000 yards of composting can take place without any permits, regulations, without any permits. You do not have your facts. You do not have your facts. Any other questions? Anybody from the board have any questions, concerns?
There was question, I think, from Mrs. Revelar about this property is not going to be exempt from any kind of taxes. Is it going under agricultural exemption or
I
anything
cannot go
like
into agricultural.
Okay.
This is a taxable facility, moneymaker for the town, opportunity for residents to have some employment. Someone mentioned that my entire staff is going to be running it. I've mentioned in prior meetings, and my story does not change, I will definitely have one of my key players now be the lead person. We're looking to give jobs to people in the town. That conversation has never been altered, and I've never changed. What I've said day one, I'm saying tonight. I have opportunity for office managers, I have opportunity for machine loaders, I have opportunities for laborers. I have a very large staff. If anybody wants to run our credentials, that's fine. Speak to my staff. We're going to be open resume. Qualified people will have employment, hopefully from the town, because I don't want my guys traveling. It takes us an hour and a half to get here. I don't want my key players. I'm actually going to have probably one of my foremen buy a house, or I'm going to buy a house in the area for them to reside in and relocate them to this facility and be local. But I'd like my workforce to be from the town.
All right, I got a couple questions, so if I could just keep on going, and then we'll just go down. All right, you stated that the townspeople are actually gonna be able to drop off their yard clippings to you. Is there gonna be a charge for that?
Absolutely not. I've said that. The town residents can dump for free. The municipality, the town highway department. I was actually gonna ask this gentleman where he brings the material now. Is it all right if I just...
Yes.
Where do you currently bring your wood chips and material from your downed trees and damaged? And what happens to the chips?
Over the bank.
Over the bank, so you're composting them in the woods. Okay. Okay.
All right.
Did they reach our house?
Now, the product that you're making, is that gonna be available to the residents?
To the residents?
Yes.
It depends to what capacity.
Okay.
I don't see a problem if someone needs, some residents need a bit of compost for their garden, a couple yards here and there. I'm not concerned about.
Okay.
I'm looking to move large amounts of material in and out. A couple yards is not going to affect our pile operation, and the compost would be available to the town. And I don't think I even set a limit to that. Whatever the town needs, I don't know what kind of compost the town uses now. I don't know if you guys go through 200, 300, 400 yards a year. That's pretty much.
Pickup truck. We can get it for free from McEnroe's.
All right. Well, don't buy that compost. You get it for free?
If we can get it.
I'll give you a trioxyl free. It's going to be available, and anybody can bring their yard waste from the town. As long as they prove they live in Amenia. I've said that before. I think it's in writing. I'll document it, whatever you want. It's free. It's free.
Now, everybody's comparing to other compost facilities and stuff like that.
Right.
From what I'm seeing, I've been on other compost facilities and I've never seen blowers before.
No.
I've never seen it on asphalt. I mean, so is this like a technological advancement as far as composting go? So when it's being compared to these other facilities, is that correct?
It's as incorrect as you could possibly get, and the stereotype is really not in line. This is a highly engineered with David's firm, GHD, which is my local engineer representative, as well as Peter Moon, who's been here at least once. He's been to the town with me more than once when we visited DEC, but he's been at least one town meeting. He's from the state of Washington. He is probably the #1 compost facility designer in the world. He just recently came back. That picture from New Zealand is his, Australia, China, all over the world. This is his system. Peter Moon, O2 Compost out of the state of Washington. I invite anybody to look up his information and Google him. This is his thing. Introducing the air and the oxygen, twofold. Can I just go point to the picture? Okay. This blower, these pipes are perforated. So the wood chips that are on there, so that's my second fraction coming out of my screener, that's just like a void. That allows the air to go through, because I can't choke the perforated pipe with finished compost or processed compost. So this allows the oxygen to go through. So this is a berm, and it looks like a regular compost pile. It's capped with finished compost. So I have to screen thousands of yards to cap it, and that's my cover, which keeps the dust and odor down. That cover goes into the finished mix, gets screened, and then I have inventory to recap my next pile, and it's just ongoing and ongoing. And that's what recycle and composting is.
All right,
It's
so
ongoing. That's all
these
ongoing.
piles are stationary?
Yes.
You're not going in there with a machine and turning them over and doing this and everything
Farms
else?
and other people, they do turn it. Macro Farms has a $600,000 windrow turner. Back is, I'm very good friends with the owner who sold them, trying to sell me one. That's old school and it's old style. Okay, he just goes down the pile, aerates it, turns it, smoke, dust, everything all over. That's where you have the fines blowing in the air and everything else. We're actually capped. We actually have a cover of finished compost, 1 foot thick, over this entire pile. It keeps everything down. This accelerates the process. I could have finished compost in 4 to 6 weeks. I've seen it. I've traveled this country to compost sites. I've had extensive training on this. Besides my own degree in soil science, botany, and horticulture, I've been educated further in making compost from these 2 firms.
So basically, that cap that you're talking about is sort of like a filter. Doesn't let the stuff come out of the pile.
It's a cover. And some people do use a Gore-Tex Gore product. Actually makes a compost cover. I sort of disagree with the technology. I just came back just going for more of my certifications. I'm injectable. If you want to look up online, U.S. Compost Council, the show I just got back from about a month ago. One idea is to cover it with an actual fabric. But a lot of the fungal activity is restrained. It doesn't move, it doesn't grow, it doesn't move. The biologic doesn't happen as quickly as we need it to. We need the air. So the air's coming through the pile, and then the cap, the finished compost is the cap, which is not let the dust odor does not come through.
Now, as far as the truck traffic and goes and stuff like that, you're basically going to be coming from Westchester 684 to Route 22.
I'm going to be coming southbound as west. I'm going to be coming eastbound.
So just like every other commercial traffic that's on the road at this time.
Absolutely.
Now, with this new technology, are these trucks some big monsters or anything? Are they different from what's on the road now?
Truck and trailer.
It's basically a tractor trailer, so there's...
Trailer.
Okay.
So we had a piece of property on Christian Hill Road since 1985 in the town of Washington. So I've been up here for over 30 years.
So these trailers that are coming down the road...
You work in the town of Washington?
Absolutely.
Where?
Christian Hill Road.
What
it was my uncle's property, and we used it, all of my cousins. Christian Hill.
Christian?
Christian.
Okay.
Christian Hill Road, which is off of 343.
And what type of trucks, again?
I'm saying I've been in this area for over 30 years.
I know, but I want to know about the type of trucks you're using.
It's a tractor trailer.
Okay, that's what I wanted to get clear.
It's a tractor
It is a
trailer.
tractor trailer.
With your trucks coming down the road, you're not going to be able to tell the difference from any other tractor trailer on the road. It's just like all the other commercial trucks that are on the road now.
Well, now not as much because there's still a little bit of recession, but if you remember, you've been there a few years, a couple years ago, logging.
Yes.
Everybody's worried about the environment. So 15, 20 years ago, my uncles made a ton of money, my neighbors made a ton of money, people, What's Hollywood made a ton of money. Everybody used to log their property and get rid of our natural woods, our oxygen supply, to sell the lumber to people in Canada, okay, for lumber. That's when you saw these 60 to 80 foot trailers, which are technically illegal on New York State Route 22. But they were going, day and night. Now you don't see them anymore. There's 1 or 2 logging guys around that you see 1 truck a day, sometimes 2 trucks a day. But we're talking about a major artery from Maine to the city, 5 trucks a day. And I think 5 trucks a day is overkill because if they're going to be 100 cubic yards, that's 3,000 yards. I'm running steady throughout the year. It's not going to be like, it might be a little bit more pronounced in the spring and a little bit more in the fall, but we're running steady. Our business doesn't stop. We don't have a lull in the summer and we don't have a lull in the winter because our winter months, we're going to be bringing in stockpile material that we can't get to in time. The summer months when things aren't actively growing, we'll have stockpile at our facilities that need to come up. So the spring, I got to get it out quicker, but I have 5 other yards in lower Westchester that store it, and then we'll bring it up sort of when we slow down. So it's going to be on a consistent basis. And if you do the math that way, at 5 days a week, probably 6 days a week, but even at 5 days a week, that's 3,000 yards. At 50 weeks, that's 150,000 cubic yards. When we downsized our operation to 60,000 tons, which is about 100,000 cubic yards, when you do the math conversion to tons to cubic yards.
A week?
Year.
Oh, a year?
Yes, a year.
Can I ask one more question?
Ask me a million questions.
I just, with due respect, I still don't understand why you couldn't be doing this closer to your facilities in Westchester.
I don't have the room.
But why couldn't you buy a property in Westchester and do it there? Why do you have to bring it to Dutchess?
Do you own any homes in Westchester?
What?
Do you own any homes in Westchester?
I lived in Bedford. That's a very, I grew up in Bedford.
Okay, so what's the property worth?
It's very high value.
Right, so Bedford, so I own a little property in Omaha, right? So it's 4 acres only, right? So 4 acres, how many 4 acre $1 million lots do I have to buy to do this facility?
Well, you probably, yeah, you'd have to,
I don't have that money. I don't have money to take up a hamlet in Omaha, Bedford, Tacoma, Chappaqua to do this operation.
So it's not about the permitting in Westchester?
Oh, absolutely not.
Okay, that's what I want to know.
We're very close
It's
to
not because you're not allowed to do it in Westchester?
Oh, no, I'm very involved with 3 facilities right now in Westchester County. But they max out at 10,000 cubic yards a year because there's only 5 to 6 acres of land. They don't have a 60-acre lot with, 10 to 12 acre footprint to do active composting.
Why don't you do it in Putnam or Rockland?
Because I don't own land there.
Could you talk into the microphone?
Absolutely, sorry.
People
I was
want
just
to,
trying to reference back to Bob. Okay.
not you, Tanya.
Her. Where's the mic?
Is it picking it up? Okay, it's all right, go ahead.
Okay.
I just want to make sure people are hearing that exchange. No, you're okay, Tanya.
Oh, okay, I apparently don't need a microphone.
No, you're right. Crystal clear. Crystal clear. Yes.
So.
I wasn't saying that.
My question was about Putnam versus Rockland versus Dutchess versus Ulster County. Why Dutchess? As I said, Harlem Valley is extremely sensitive about solid waste.
There's compost facilities in every one of those municipalities you mentioned. Rockland has probably 2 of the largest facilities. Putnam has facilities. Westchester has facilities. All municipalities and counties have compost facilities, whether it be new, proposed, or existing. The closest facility to us, David, help me out with this, is in Syracuse. Well, is Kingston closer? Yes, right? So the closest facility with my engineering is in Kingston, New York. Very small facility, but they have the same technology operating right now. This system, our system, traditional composting, it's everywhere. And there are more registrations than permits. Permits are harder. We were advised by the DEC to not go for a permit because to convert that to they advised us not to go for a registration to start out at 10,000 yards because of the clients that we have that we're going to accept the material from. They said you might as well just go for the registration and apply for a certain amount of yards a year because I have the land, and we're going to have the machinery and the engineering to do the procedure properly.
So it's 3 acres on 35 acres.
No, my facility?
Yeah, here.
No, we're going to be just 8.5?
About 8.
Yeah, so like 8.5 acres on a 58.5 acre property. It's a tiny piece of the property. The woods don't get disturbed, trees don't get disturbed, none of the natural environments get disturbed. And we have performed specific wildlife assessments as well. That's all been completed. Yes?
I have a question for the board. I'm a little scared. You're going to change the rules, changing the law. What exactly is the law we're changing to?
Right now, it's no waste at all is allowed in here. Am I getting this right?
Anywhere in the town.
Nowhere in the town.
Solid waste is prohibited specifically.
Okay, now we're changing this law. I'm not upset about his proposal. It sounds, I don't know. But I'm worried about in the future. We're changing this law to what? Can a person, the next person have solid waste
And it's the law now. We have a law. You can bring, is the law solid waste? Can the next person bring in whatever they please?
No. It would only be in the OC district, so we can't just change his property alone. So any property that is in the OC district would also be at this added opportunity.
And what is the OC
OC
district?
is the office commercial.
Yes.
Well, what would that be in this area?
So the Allen property is the OC district. They have wanted to do composting on that site. They've applied several times to the town board, and the town board has said no. This is the only operation that we've considered it because these folks have come in and given us quite a bit of information, but it would allow anybody currently owning OC district property to put forth a proposal and be considered by the town board,
And
not
the-
just anywhere.
And the other...
Considered.
Considered, but
Mean that they just get
the
there.
question is, it's like, we changed the law for one person, and this might be a fantastic deal, but then the next person might have the composting that vultures will come, or rats, or whatever, and it's like, well, he did it.
Well, we're only considering it
process that he's going through.
yard waste. So we said right off the front, we would not be changing the zoning law to include yard waste, and it would have to be aerobic. Thermophilic, I think, was the language we used. So,
But is the law going, like, is this law going to say that exactly, or is
Yes,
it going to be like
specifically.
solid waste?
it would have to specifically say yard waste only, no food waste. And it would have to be aerobic.
You're changing the law to say.
Well, we
haven't decided.
No, but
yet.
if the law gets changed, let's say you guys decided, how is this law, how will it be written that the next person doesn't come up and say, I want to throw food
Ma'am,
waste
can I just talk for 1 second? There's, I think, 1 or 2 other properties in the OC district that are possible candidates to do composting in DC regulations. The other said properties where other people have complained have been denied by the DEC. In the crazy, strangest events, it went past this board. The DEC has already notified us they wouldn't be allowed to receive a permit anyway. So it can never go further than my property and I think 1 other property, which is about a little triangle. It's about an acre property, and you're not going to spend $3.5 to $4 million on equipment on a 1 acre piece of property. So there's only about 1 or 2 other properties that might work, and this is beyond the text amendment to the town. This is with the DEC now, because they're working with their own maps.
And then when it becomes time to change this law, we're going to have hearings just like this with the input from the community to give us the language on these laws that the community wants in there. So it's just not, we're going to sit there and write a law, and that's what it is. There's going to be public hearings, there's going to be research, there's going to be all that stuff when we do get to the point, if we get to that point, to change these laws.
How can we be at this point when we have, how can we be considering something new when we have an illegal one? I mean, if I understand what Nina said and what was just said by the board, the Allen property has come to you and been denied, but I go by them every day and they're operating. So how can we, even as a town, be talking about this when we aren't dealing with the illegal ones? I mean, I realize that that you as a landowner have a right to simultaneously, but I think as a town we're not dealing with what's going on at the Allen property.
I understand what you're saying, but how could you put someone like this?
I'm not saying to put him off, but I'm talking about the whole composting in the OC district. If we're going to consider this, then we have to talk about what's going on at the Allen property.
I agree, and there's a lot of things that are going to have to be talked about how they're going on in this town right now also.
And I was just looking, and it says it's something that concerned me. I said, who's going to test what's coming in there? Now, you just said anybody in town could bring their yard scraps, but if I look on this O2 compost site of Peter Moon, one of his recommendations is do not use treated wood scraps or yard trimmings treated with chemical pesticides in your compost pile. So how are you going to know that anybody in the town of Amenia that brings you their bags full of compost that it hasn't been treated with pesticides?
Post-consumer. So if it has pesticides in the process, it gets dissipated.
Dissipated to where? And I think that raises Tanya's
The
question.
heat, it's the heat that's transpired in the internal combustion of the pile.
And not into the ground and not into the groundwater.
It can never hit. If you want to just use this as a surface that will not let water go through, that's my pad. That's
Well,
the
we
surface.
won't let it go through, but it doesn't mean it can't run off.
Yeah, hold on. Yes.
If this company doesn't take that yard waste, where's that yard waste going anyway?
Can you go to the picture?
It's going in the ground just like Stan chips his chips over the bank. You know, it's the same thing. So if this company starts taking the yard waste from the town, we might actually be able to regulate it a little better than we are now.
Could I ask you a question?
Sure.
Because I'm concerned about how the college.
Yes.
Hold on, we're jumping too much. I need to finish our question first. We're jumping too much. We need to get this a little more organized. Please. Ma'am? I'm sorry, I didn't mean. Do you see this concrete pad?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you can imagine, I'm sorry, can you turn me back 1 second? If you can imagine water hitting this and running off, you see this drain? That's collecting the water that's coming off of there. And then it's going in, it's hard piped to my holding pond, which all the water will go to. It'll be gravity fed to this pond.
And
It
even
never
for
touched the
rains
water.
like we had a couple of days ago, it's not gonna
Excuse me?
run over.
I'm sorry. You said you weren't using, he said you weren't using those same concrete.
Well, we'll make a decision. It's
Will
going
you,
to be impervious.
wait a minute here. Now, one person at a time, and that person with the microphone. We can't have everybody just shouting out. Because the people, a lot of people are very interested in
These
this.
people over here have a nest of microphones around. That's why I'm not concerned. Everybody's concerned, can they be heard? They can be heard. These folks here need to have microphones, please. I'm monitoring what's going out. Trust me on this.
Okay.
Do you understand?
The rain the other day wouldn't create flooding that drain couldn't handle.
No, because we're designed to the maximum amount of rainfall for our area for a 10-year flood. This is all regulated by the DEC. It's not our law. It's a 10-year floodplain. It's a 100-year rainstorm. It's a 10-year floodplain.
Could I clarify that comment? So,
Yeah, sure, please.
just relative to precipitation control, we have to manage the 10-year 1-hour storm. That's a high-intensity rainfall. That's when you have the greatest potential for things like compost fines or things like contaminants to be contained in the runoff, and that's exactly what we're capturing. So we want to get that first flush. That's the goal. We don't want contaminated runoff to go into untreated water bodies. We want to contain it. That's the objective.
And so also with the watershed restrictions in Putnam and Westchester, the restrictions that you're putting for this project here in Dutchess County, would you meet those same restrictions for Westchester and Putnam? Just out of curiosity, because I would assume that the New York City watershed is much more restrictive than up here.
Town of Harrison, you're familiar with Town of Harrison Purchase? So they have the old Nike Air Force Base. They are adjacent to the reservoir. They are running their active composting adjacent to it right now. Municipality regulated by the DEP and the DEC right now. Most municipalities are near bodies of water, but they're normally on pads with no collection system. This is just, they bring all the leaves from the residents in, sort of stockpiled. It's so short term. It's in and out in a matter of days. So there are numerous sites, I'm not going to say all, but numerous sites adjacent to the Portland Reservoir, which is New York City's water. Not really everybody's water in the area, but the main bodies of drinking water for the city, there are current active composting piles there right now. I am nowhere near bodies of water. Nowhere near bodies of water. And the other facilities that have been mentioned in the town are too near wetlands and bodies of water and the river, which it'll never happen in a million years will a composting facility be accepted by the DEC on these said properties. So there's only maybe, I'm going to just say less than 4 in the town that might be candidates, and the properties just don't allow. There's just not enough land to properly have this facility to this capacity.
I'd like to come back to engineering and technology, if I may.
Sure.
Because in a presentation it looks extremely attractive and interesting to people who have been, grown used to engineering taking us forward into the future. However, engineering depends on the kind of numbers that you've used here, the 10-year maximum rainfall event. The trouble with that is that, one of the measures we use generally here for floodplains and for building our houses outside of floodplains is the 100-year flood event. Well, so a 100-year flood event is it something that you can design for? You say, okay, we're going to have the standard is one flood of that size in 100 years. Trouble is, we had 2 over a period of 3 or 4 years. So now, the statistics are fine for the past, but they simply don't apply to the present.
Now, I'd like to just...
Yeah, please.
If you can imagine that's a large volume of water associated with a 100-year storm. Huge, and that's torrential downpours. Would you anticipate that the level of contaminants contained in a large volume of water would be significant?
I know the standard for dealing with pollution is dilution. I'm not sure that that's acceptable.
No, that's not the point I was trying to make. The point that I'm trying to make is that we're managing what is the greatest potential for contaminants. We've actually we've done studies. Other consultants have done studies. It's available literature relative to what stormwater you need to design for a compost site. And they've come to the conclusion that it's really that first flush rainfall you need to manage, and that things in excess of that are relatively clean stormwater, that the results of the concentrations of nitrogen, phosphorus, BOD, COD are clean and comparable with the adjacent water bodies.
So if we follow that line of argument, then the first flush of rainwater will go into your holding pond, and everything else will wash off onto the rest of the site. Because your holding pond is designed for the first flush, not for the rest of it.
Well, no, we maintain a level in that holding pond. As Anthony mentioned earlier,
it doesn't stay full.
Yeah, it won't stay full. If it looks like there's a storm event coming, then one of the requirements of the contingency plan would be to draw down the water level to be ready to receive that next storm.
And,
so that there wouldn't be...
and also with the summer that we just had, we need that water for hydration on my piles. And during rain, this pile would also act like a sponge. 50 to 60% is what acceptable outgoing. If we have these torrential rains, it's going to absorb that much more water, and I need that much more time for it to expel the water, so it's saleable. So those piles are actually absorbing most of the water. If anybody's familiar with peat or sphagnum or moss, and you wet it, it retains moisture. That's why people use it in their gardens. That's why people mulch, to retain moisture. This product retains moisture. That's why farmers add it to their fields. That's why people mulch their beds, to retain moisture. It's needed, necessary. The product absorbs it. So it's just not hitting a paved surface and just running out, hitting the ground and running out contaminated. It's probably less than 20 or 30% is going to leave that pile. If that pile had a solid wall on it, nothing would come out of it. Nothing would come out of it. Right now, if I sat with a fire hose for 3 hours, 4 hours, at 50 to 60, 70, 80 gallons, even 80 gallons a minute, I don't think it would drip. I don't think it would drip out. And I could probably sit there for 3 to 4 hours. If you look at the base of these piles, you see that little bit of spillage? It's rained. There's always water. There's a little bit coming out. If you see these little parallel lines coming out, that's the little bit of seepage. If this really expelled all this contaminant, this entire field would be black from the leaching, which is technically compost tea, which is extremely valuable, and I get paid a lot of money to install it on people's plants. So it's not toxic. Water with compost is compost tea. It's probably the highest organic nutrient that people apply to their
The
plants.
young lady in the back was next.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'd like to address Councilman DeLango.
Yes.
I just wanted, it's about Tally Ho. We have 60 available acres all behind Tally Ho, that is saleable right now. Someone is trying to sell it. Who wants to put, well, it's the owner of our Tally Ho, who has 12 other mobile home parks or manufactured home parks, which we have a manufactured. You know how that, it's a beautiful, beautiful place.
Yes.
He's not able to now put in, they want to put homes in this area. My question to you and the board is, how many acres does Anthony have on his property that he's doing this?
58 point something acres.
Okay, now this is 60 acres. What happens if this vote goes through?
Okay.
And it could be any place then. Because we're tallying, they can put something like this, I guess it's a pretty nice operation, behind us.
You're residential, you're not OC. You're in the wrong district anyway.
Okay.
So the text amendment would not apply to you.
So it's only from Tally Ho where it is on that?
It's only OC district. You should get a copy of the map, or we can download one for you.
That's still not acceptable.
There's an OC area
You said that,
district
yes.
that we're applying for a text amendment for that district. So your backyard is not applicable.
Okay.
And so don't have this conception that your neighbors are going to turn around because I went and opened the compost facility, that another one is going to open. They're few and far apart. Like I said, there's probably 2 other parcels, maybe 3. I'm going to say up to 4 properties that are in the OC. This is on the DEC maps. So like I said, if the text amendment does go through, if the text amendment goes through and other people have this idea, now the DEC steps in. And the DEC is really the ruling agency. So it still needs state approvals.
Yeah, okay.
There are no other facilities large enough in our area
But it still
to accept
leads,
it.
it still leads us back to one other thing. What
Sure.
else can come in when something like this is passed?
This is a text amendment for composting.
Well, if this just started composting, it can go to anything else. That's how I feel.
It's not going to go to a legal contaminated
We never-
dump site, landfill.
And Marco D'Antonio, live in Amenia here also. A couple things for the board and the folks here, just to put your mind at ease, some suggestions. Obviously, the town's laws can be a little stricter than the regulations in the state and the counties. They can always be tighter, they can't be looser. Something to suggest for the town board, 2 things. And one, maybe I'm sure you've done this already. Phase 2 investigation of the property? It's been not completed yet? It's a phase 2 investigation of the property. At least you have a baseline there, where to start with. You know what's in the ground. If there's contaminants in the ground, wasn't because of him at that point, then we have a baseline. If there's contaminants in the ground, it can be cleaned up. If there's no contaminants, again, you have a baseline to start with there, number 1. Number 2, a compliance program. Compliance program, the town could actually do. The DEC has many compliance programs already in place. You can have the code enforcer go ahead and do the compliance check on the facility at any time. It's the town's discretion. You can set up that timeline, whether it be monthly, quarterly, weekly, whatever you want to do. He would probably have to be trained into the facility, trained at doing that compliance work, or you could actually sub that out to a third party. And subbing it out to a third party, you would, again, have representative that has, that's not biased one way or the other. It's a third party. They do that all the time with insurance claims and such. So those are the 2 things that I would suggest to the town and the town's folks to make it a little easier. Myself, yes, most of you know, I do run the water operations here. My firm is also an environmental engineering firm. We are doing composting in Sullivan County, similar programs to this. And fighting some resistance from the population up there too. But I can tell you this technology is, pretty much state of the art. This is the way you want to go. The old ways of turning composting piles and just throwing rubbish on there, that's gone. That's got to go. This is a clean operation. But again, to put your mind at ease, I would suggest 2 things. Phase 2 investigation. Phase 1, of course, first. Phase 2 investigation of the property. And then compliance program. That would definitely cover everybody's fears and worries, because you're also getting the DEC who's doing their program. Everything's coming in off of scale. It's coming in on a scale. It's being tracked. You can't hide that. There's severe fines and penalties and shutdown of operations and jail time if he breaks those rules. Your compliance program on top of that can help enforce it. Okay, so again, you can be equal to or stronger than the state and the county's regulations. I would suggest if you want to be stronger, to go that aspect, and no worries about what else you can put on that pile or who else is going to come in and bring in other composting materials. Have your code enforcer or a third party do the oversight and do the compliance work. That would put everybody's minds at ease, and have them report to the town board, monthly meetings, so that way everything can be foiled, everything is documented, and you will have everything available to you at your fingertips. Just my suggestion.
Can I comment?
Yep.
Thank you very much for your time and what you brought to the table. I'd like to say that the DEC, besides being linked to our scale, so that sort of gauges the volume, there is every 2 weeks, there's an officer assigned to my property. If the town likes, I can put it in writing. I have no problem paying. I don't know if that needs to be done monthly or every other month, if an outside firm needs to come in. I don't know what an outside firm is going to pick up. The DEC picks up everything. They need to have them closed, because at that point the DEC is liable for what comes in and out of our facility. And again, I'd like to mention there's a retainer associated with this. So if they find something that is illegal or being done harmful to the environment, illegal dumping, hazardous material, they use my retainer. And I would not like to disclose, it's public record, it's a significant amount of money that they're holding, non-refundable. As long as I'm in operation and I hold that permit, I never see that money again.
Now,
So
that DEC is every 2 weeks, you said?
every 2 weeks.
Now, would you have a problem copying the town board or the building department
Public
on
record,
what that
it's
report
really public
says?
record, but I could supply reports, absolutely. There's going to be staff at the facility. So if you want us to just monthly just send your reports, are you looking for how much comes in and how much goes out? I can't exceed my permit. I cannot exceed my permit. I cannot. They'll close me down. And once they close me down, my money is gone. I don't have a permit. I'm done. They use my money. They clean the facility, closed, and I'm done. And we're talking about severe legal impacts.
Yeah, also one
severe criminal impacts.
One more thing I'd like to add too, if you did do the third-party oversight, additional to that, or your compliance officer, well, let's just go with third-party oversight. If you went with a firm that was, I'm not saying us or anything like that, but anybody that you want to hire, usually those engineering firms are going to do this type of compliance work, have PE on staff. They're not going to sign off and jeopardize their license or jeopardize the firm to try to hide something, number one. Number two, there's, like you said, there's severe fines and jail time that go along with that. You don't do that. It's just, you can't do that.
It's called controlled inspections, and I don't have a problem for a third party to perform that service at my cost.
Guys, can we get it back to the town board? Damien, you guys have any more questions?
I actually did. Will there be retail?
I'm sorry?
Will there be retail operations on the?
I'm not really looking for retail. I'm looking for just wholesale.
Okay.
Retail meaning a homeowner? I mean, if someone needs, like I said, if someone needs a couple yards to, do like a vegetable garden or a couple yards, I'll be happy to give it to them. I don't want someone coming with a pickup truck. I don't want that additional traffic on my site. That's a big liability for us. I'd rather my own trucks come in and my own trucks go out. Even local landscapers, if someone's doing a job in Millbrook or Millerton or Sharon, which I've performed projects and I've bought from other compost facility operators in the area. I'd rather just do it on a more of a commercial basis.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was kind of getting at. Is
Yeah.
it going to be your trucks in? Your
Yeah,
trucks
I don't
out,
want 20 pickup trucks in there. That's really more a traffic issue than a truck coming in, dumping, getting out of there, and we don't see them again. 10-hour day, we're seeing a truck every 2 hours.
Right.
I don't see that being traffic.
Okay. And then the other thing I wanted some clarification on was just what criteria you'll be using to decide whether you line the pond or not.
I have to line the pond.
Well, it said it was optional in the presentation.
No. I have to line this pond. DEC on this property, Part 360, that applies to my pre-application meeting, which has been had in New Paltz.
Not the pad, right? But the
No,
pond.
the pad is pavement.
Right.
The pond. You're talking about the pond or the pad?
The pond.
The pond has to be lined.
With what?
Rubber. Yeah, it's actually a Goodyear product. It's like a 120 mil line. It's like, excuse me?
Can you show how thick that is?
It's about less than half an inch. Yeah, it's less than half an inch. I don't know the year rating on it. If you need that technical data on the lining of the pond, I can get it for you. That's very easy. And that also is above and beyond what the town is going to require. That's decided by the DEC.
Okay,
And I can't open my doors. They'll inspect the facility before the doors open. So if I use the wrong liner, the wrong material,
okay,
start over.
On one of the slides, it states that it says option to line pond. It's the slide with the
some soils. There's classifications on soils. Some soils, like clay, we're down county in Westchester, we have clay, high clay, loam soils, which are I think it's a Class A. I don't think it's a Class B. I think it's a Class A soil. So it's almost impervious. So some of those facilities that have that type of soil don't need to be lined. You could dig a pond, it's almost like clay. It gets wet, it sort of makes a film, it's done. That's not applicable. I have a sandy, mostly gravel soil. Anyway, DEC, there's absolutely no exception to this. I need to line my pond. There's never going to be a conversation about that. It needs to be lined.
So what's unique about this site that it has to be lined?
It's my soil type.
It's your soil type?
It's my soil type.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those are really my only questions. Someone else?
How would you be getting rid of the leachate?
I'm sorry.
How would you be getting rid of the leachate?
I would rehydrate my piles during the summer months, and if the pond becomes at capacity, I need to truck it off site, very similar to a septic tank, and it needs to go down to our closest facility now would be, I believe, Danbury has a facility, and we have a facility that we use through a subcontractor in Valhalla right now, out of a different facility that we're working on. It should never have to leave the facility. First of all, it's being built for this 10-year flash flood. This past summer, I probably couldn't had enough water. I'm probably going to have to introduce water. And one of the statements, I'm not sure where I read it, someone said that I only have a 5-gallon a minute well. How is that going to be suffice? I actually have a 5-gallon that supplies my house. I have an 80-gallon a minute well on my property as well. It was done by Boyd Wells. So I would actually have to add water and deplete the holding pond as well. A summer that we just had, my compost would be brittle. That would be blowing in the air and have no moisture, which is not saleable. So I would have to actually hydrate these piles. So I'm going to use all that water and probably incorporate my well.
You have an 80-gallon for what would you?
Yeah. Yep.
How would you be handling the non-yard waste that comes in with the yard waste?
Containers, and I'll bring it down to Wells Shore transfer station and get rid of it. Yeah, we have to pick through it. I can't have contaminants. I won't receive my quality assurance because every 2 weeks it goes to U.S. Compost. Every 2 weeks I have to send a sample out of 5 locations on my pile to get my assurance certification, keep that current. If there's any contaminants in there, metals, plastics, pathogens, it's rejected. Pretty much that pile has to really go to a dump and I have to start all over again. So I need to follow proper procedures. But plastics are going to come in. Someone's backyard is going to be plastic. There might be, a wood product. I don't know what's going to be on the back of the trucks. They'll go. I'll have a container. I'll have probably a 20 or 30-yard container on site, and I'll fill it and I'll just go dump at a transfer station off site. It won't go in my woods.
Now, you'll be bringing this lawn clippings and whatever with trailer trucks?
Yes.
And how many a day or a week again?
Maximum.
That's a concern.
Well, maximum that brings me over my limit. I'm going to say 5, right? So that's 1 every 2 hours on a 10-hour workday. So it's probably
each day?
Excuse me?
Each day?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes.
So 5 a day.
I would say on average, until I hit my limit. So if I go over my limit, I need to stop, and I have to get finished product off the site.
Okay.
And there are scenarios where I'm holding too much, or I'm at maximum, where if I'm not selling the product, I can't accept anymore. It's an ongoing process. So my registration, not my registration, my permit is maxed out at, let's say, the 60,000 tons per year. It sounds like a great number, but it's really not, because it's incoming and outgoing. But at any given point, that's maximum. And I believe we've had this discussion about, that's like phase 3 build out. Phase one, it's like probably 1/3 or maybe half of that amount. I can't operate full capacity year one. I have to get it up and running. I have to run it clean. I have to show DEC. So we're phased out. It's like a 3-year. It's like a 3-year build out. I have to show them that I could do phase one, and then we could incremental step up to the next phase. I'm not going to be at max first year. I won't have the capability of processing material. But I don't see how, and I'm definite DOT. I've had brief conversations. There will be further conversations with DOT. There's absolutely no reason for them to deny a truck every 2 hours being an obstruction in traffic. And yes, they are trailer trucks, but they're also going to be straight dump trucks as well. They're going to be like triaxle dump truck max as well. It'll sort of be mixed among trucks in my fleet. The further destinations where the material is coming from would definitely be in a larger truck because there's not a lot of weight. It's really capacity. So 100 yards sounds like a lot, but it's very light material. It's not concrete. It's not dirt. It's a very lightweight material.
Okay.
Yes?
How many tons would you figure on a load leaving?
100 yards is 32 tons on average.
We just had a load of sand delivered.
No, I didn't say sand. I said yard.
We had a load of sand delivered.
How many yards?
I don't know how many yards. It was 40 ton.
On a trailer?
On a trailer.
He was overweight.
And the salt was 35 ton.
He was almost legal if he has 107 to 120. My trucks all have 120,000 pound overweight permits. I'm grandfathered in. Yeah. This is ongoing since 1958, my company. I just happen to be the sole owner of it right now. So we've had permits grandfathered in from New York City, all throughout Westchester. We're actually apportioned, so we're legal in 3 states with all our overweight permits. So a 120,000 pound GVW trailer can take up 35, maybe 36 tons is max. Anything over that, you're overweight.
My question to the board was, this is not a variance, this is a zoning change, correct?
It's a text
You're changing the zoning.
It's a text amendment.
We're not doing anything right now.
And even if you consider changing zoning, would it go to a referendum?
No.
So the voters would,
Well, there'd be public hearing.
but the voters would not have a say in any of this.
No, changing the zoning is a legislative action by the town board. It's entirely discretionary. It doesn't go to referendum. So it's changing the zoning is an entirely discretionary legislative action by the town board, so it does not go to a referendum. If the town board doesn't decide to entertain this, you could just say today, we choose not to entertain this application. This is over. This is done. It's entirely within your legal right. If you decide that you do want to entertain this, and I see on the agenda that there's a resolution before you to declare lead agency since you circulated your notice of intent. If you do decide to entertain this, and this goes through the normal seeker process, it's a type 1 action, which brings with it the presumption that you're going to have an EIS required. If you decide not to do an EIS, that is also within your right, but declaring lead agency tonight kicks off the seeker process, and then there's a whole lot of other work that this applicant has to do. Having said that, if the board isn't really going to entertain this, if you know right now, based on all the information that you've reviewed, they gave you this pretty comprehensive application, you got lots of input from lots of people. If you decide that this is not something that you wish to entertain any further, you can just say no right now, and you can save this gentleman and all of his staff a lot of time and money, paying not only for their own experts to do the review, but also for the town's experts to do the review. If that's the direction that you think that you want to go, based on what you've heard, then you should probably, in all fairness, say no to him tonight, rather than dragging this on and on and on.
Can I just make a quick point? My name is Andrew Maggio. I am Mr. Buffamonte's attorney. And the board, I'm sure, is aware, but maybe many of you in the audience are not. I have skin in this game as well. I own close to 200 acres across the street from this facility. And I'd like you all to know that I, too, am very environmentally conscious. I haven't used chemical fertilizer or chemical herbicides on my property for 3 years. And I have a pending organic certification application. Mr. Buffalmonte, I can tell you, will make a first-rate operation here. He has the character and integrity to run this facility very responsibly. And if there ever is a issue in the future, I know Mr. Buffalmonte will address it and correct it if possible.
Is your property OC zone? No. Really? Okay, so everything on our side really is. Because I know that mine is OC zoned, Tim Cole's is OC zoned, further down the road going up towards Amenia is all OC zoned.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that you're creating a corridor, essentially, where this is available to be done. And then I don't know what's involved with changing perimeters for zoning areas. Can somebody put in an application for the OC zoning to go across the street? Can somebody put in a permit to create an OC zone somewhere else?
That would be called spot zoning. You can't just...
You can't create.
Just do that?
No.
Okay, so that's good to know.
Mr. Cole Farm, I spoke to the director of New York State Agricultural Department. So he's agriculturally exempt, and they're not even sure how he got that, but he did, probably grandfathering it in. He would never, ever be able to make shredded straw on that property again, on that property. So that beautiful warehouse that he built with no permits, because he's agricultural exempt, is a real few and far between.
Listen, I understand where you're coming from. I bought the house that I'm in because I like the fact that it has flexible zoning.
Yes.
But I also bought it with the understanding that something like this would not be coming in next door.
Actually, you did buy it with that understanding because you knew you were in a commercial zone.
I read through.
When you bought the house, you knew that it could have been a commercial use.
Andrew, at the microphone, please.
This is a zoning change. Yeah, this is waste management. I bought it for agricultural purposes. I run a flower farm. It's a far cry between that and what you're talking about. And quite frankly, I have nothing against compost. I have 2 cubic yards of it on my property. Keeps me busy. But, it's a very big difference. What we're talking about is substantial change without any notification to the neighbors. If this has been being talked about for quite a while, I would assume, right? How long?
When it gets to the proper time, it goes to public notice.
But how long has this been going on that the discussion was being had?
Well, we went before the zoning board of appeals.
At the microphone, please.
We've been talking about this for many, many months. We've gone to the zoning board of appeals. We've gone to the conservation committee. We've gone to the town board several times. This has been spoken about for months, several meetings, numerous meetings. But we don't have an obligation to serve. There's been no notice provision that we've not abided by. This is something that has been discussed publicly, discussed at public meetings, televised on television. And why you're getting notice of this now is not really something that we were aware of. We're doing everything out in public, at public meetings, and in the open.
You're not aware of it because you haven't provided notice to us, and it's
no. But we have no obligation. We have no obligation to do that.
But it's not obligation. It's neighborly.
Okay.
I'm your neighbor. Tim's my neighbor. When he did things on his property, he lets me know. When I take down my trees, I let him know. I know. Yeah, he's well aware. He's the one that let me know about it.
He wants me to split phase 3 electric so we can both enjoy it at my expense, and everybody's got their own little benefits, and I appreciate that. But what he's done there will never happen again, and that's actually a bad neighbor to you, what he's bringing in, because he has this agricultural exemption, which is really for growing trees, not for making mulch.
Well, isn't that your agricultural exemption too? You're trying to get this in under, but you were using a loophole as a tree farm, wasn't it? Continuous use as a tree farm at one point in time, and so you're arguing that it's still agricultural?
Agricultural exemption would mean I prove that I sold $10,000 of trees a year off the property, which I never have. I never filed for it. I might have received information on it, never filed. I'm not looking for any tax savings. I'm looking to pay my taxes, and I'm looking to create quite a bit of revenue for the town. I'm not looking for tax exemption by no means. I'm not Silo Ridge. I'm not one of these big box stores. I'm not. I want to pay my taxes. I pay my taxes on all my properties. I'm not looking for any kind of exemption. I don't fall into agriculture exemption. I'm not growing trees. He's not growing trees.
I wish you were.
The other aspect of this that we're missing, I believe, is that this is a DEC-regulated facility. It's the purpose of the DEC, the New York Department of Environmental Conservation, to protect the resources of the state, whether it's wildlife, whether it's fish, streams, marine resources, or aquifers. So the DEC is not going to approve or implement something that will jeopardize any of those resources. This is completely done. You asked a question, is the DEC involved? Is this going to be policed? The answer is 100%, absolutely, from the start to the end.
I think we have to take your faith on that, though. I mean, you say that it will be inspected every 2 weeks, and that's the DEC regulations, but...
We cannot leave, we cannot go outside of the parameters of the law. We are regulated by the state.
I think if anything has been made very clear tonight is that lots of people in the area have gone outside the perimeters of the law, and we have absolutely no regulating ability to actually stop it, is what it sounds like.
They are not regulated. They do not have a DEC permit. I don't know what part you don't get. I'm going for a permit. With that permit, I'm regulated by the state. With every 2 weeks, there's a visit and monitoring by the state. If I don't fall under the parameters of the law, I'm shut down and my retainer is lost. This is a guided, this is a regulated site by the DEC. I'm not asking the town to open a compost facility. I'm asking the town to do a text amendment which will allow me to get my DEC permit to open this legally. I would not be before anyone here if I wanted to sneak something in, would I? Every other facility has been performed illegally. So let's get the stereotypical attitude out of this room. I'm not going to open an illegal facility. I'm going to do this legally. It's engineered. It's the most modern, most efficient, most high-end facility design probably in the world right now. Right now, it's probably the top facility engineers between GHD and O2 Compost that are designing my facility.
Maybe so, but I think it's still just the fear in general. The other concept of your first flush water retention system is that it's, as your engineer said,
yes,
the first flush is where all your contaminants are, right?
Primarily so.
Primarily. So that then goes into your water holding tank.
Yes.
Right? Okay. You also at one point suggested that a water holding pond is a nice wetland for animals to use.
It's an aerated.
I'm not arguing about the aeration. I'm saying this is what your engineer said.
The pond that's accepting the leachate is aerated.
You're asking kind of a unique question.
Of course.
You're for straws, and it's kind of sad.
No, but we both are.
But let me explain something. The pond is aerated. The pond, when it gets full, it gets pumped onto my piles to hydrate them. We understand hydration?
Yes.
It's water. Whether it be runoff, Mother Nature, or my well. These piles need to be hydrated.
Okay, but you also mentioned at one point that if the water gets up to capacity, gets taken out, and you said there were...
reaches capacity.
Right. But you said there were certain facilities that were equipped to take this water.
Absolutely.
What is it that is in this water that makes it have to go to a certain facility?
Nothing. Leachate, that's the
So you could take it to 10 Mile River and dump it and legally it'd be okay?
Let's go to a facility.
Right, so what's so special about the
Excuse me, excuse me, I think this has been long enough. I think we're done. The board is ready to consider a vote.
Could I ask one more question? How come we weren't told by the board?
Excuse me.
They couldn't tell us. Why weren't we told by the board?
Told what?
That this was happening. I knew nothing. Nobody knew nothing.
We do an agenda. It's on our website.
I don't happen to have a website. I didn't want to do that.
We have an agenda. We publicize all our meetings.
No, I feel, someone said in here, I forgot the one, I think the attorney said it, that we should have been told by the board. And I believe that we should have been.
Please don't put words in my
Told
mouth.
It's not that
We
step
didn't
in the
do
process
anything yet.
We're going through the secret. We have to accept lead agency. Once, if and when we do accept lead agency, that's when the registered letters go out. That's when we have the public hearings and everything else.
Well, it seems far gone already. It seems like it's a done deal.
I don't think so.
I think so.
I would like to make a motion.
Okay, okay.
That we move
Oh, wait a
on.
minute. We're going to move on. The discussion is over. And I think you can leave if you shout out again.
I think we've discussed all of the sides. We have provided the Bufamontes with ample opportunities to tell us about their project, explain how, carefully they plan to build this and that it's state-of-the-art. We understand that. We appreciate that you're trying to do the highest and best use for your land. But I think we've heard an overwhelming response from our CAC, from our neighbors, that this isn't incompatible with what they understood their land was going to be used for. They believed that it would be more of a residential neighborhood, and they're not, I think as a town, we should be, our overriding concern should be the protection of our aquifer and the basic, ensuring that drinking water and the health of the community is, I think we would entertain this more if in fact you were a resident and we were composting our own materials, but not to bring in the stuff from outside and compost it here. If it's just because our land is cheap, that's not enough reason for us to feel that that's a legitimate reason. And I am very concerned about bringing in emerald ash borer and other invasive pests.
But Vicki, isn't that what this process is?
I make a motion that we go ahead and deny this application, given all the information that we have. And I think we have a new town board member on our board. We voted before, and we decided to go ahead and proceed on a 3-2 vote. I think at this point, we need to go ahead and vote and decide whether or not we want them to go through with this process. I think we all know enough about this proposal, right?
Mm-hmm.
We should be able to say yes or no, and then they can decide whether or not they want to continue on, and we can decide also.
So what's the motion that's on the floor?
The motion is to deny this application for the change of the zoning to allow
Can I
composting.
please clarify one thing
solid
before you
waste.
move further about emerald ash borer?
No.
We're,
Oh, okay.
We have a
I just-
motion on the floor.
When items are brought up, I'd like to have.
Motion to deny the application for a zoning text change.
second.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger. Councilwoman Hitzelberger.
Yes.
Councilman Galango.
No.
Councilman Gutierrez.
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle.
Yes.
Supervisor Perotti.
Yes.
So what's the outcome of the motion?
Well, the motion passes so that it.
The application is denied.
Okay, so
Application's
explain.
denied.
Application is denied. So this project is not moving any farther?
Not
To be
as
explored or to be
applied.
anything?
Not to be applied. Not as they applied for.
It's ridiculous. We sat here, these people have a project before us, like the project or don't like the project. You need that information to make an informed decision. Everything that we got from the CAC, from the people that were in the audience and everything, there's a lot of good, legitimate concerns, but there are no facts backing up some of these things. We need to explore this project at a cost to the applicant, get the certified people, our consultants and everything else, and give us the proof that we need to make an informed decision. Right now, you're not letting this project go any further so we could get to that point to get the information that we need to make an informed decision. I just think that is kind of
We were elected
close-minded
to
and not
serve
making an informed
the
decision.
residents, and the residents have spoken almost unanimously in opposition. I've found very few people to come forward we have an obligation to uphold the property
We have an
values and
obligation
the
to collect
rights of the
information
people
to
who
make
are.
informed decisions. Again, like the project or don't like the project. I don't know if I like this project, but I want more information, not from their presentation, from our paid consultants, from our certified people. That's what I would like to
Our
see.
certified people drew up the comprehensive plan. We
And the
hired at
comprehensive
$70,000
plan is a
good
document that is
lawyer.
made to be changed.
The good lawyer
Just
said-
because we have a comprehensive plan that
Don't
says
allow
it doesn't
solid
allow
waste.
this, there
Don't allow
should be a
solid waste.
discussion with information to see if it's able to be changed, if we want to change it. How do you just shut something down without making an informed decision?
We studied
That's
this.
just what I'm saying.
And we passed a law in
Who's we?
2007, the town board, the town of Amenia.
Okay, so everything in that comprehensive plan can never be changed.
No, it can be, but
It
when
can
you
be
hear from the
changed.
residents.
But if you don't let it
You
go
don't-
through the process to get the informed information to make the change, how is it ever going to change? You're shutting a project down on hearsay. Again, I don't know if I want this project or don't want this project. What I do want is information to make an informed decision.
I'd actually agree with you, Mike. The thing that is a little different for me is that this change would affect not just this parcel, not just this property, not just this project, but it would affect so much more in the town.
I think this vote was taken, and this vote went the way it was because there was a lot of things tonight about not re-election. And that's not a reason to vote one way. The reason we're up here is to make informed decisions, to listen to our consultants, to look at our laws to see if they need to be changed. But if we can never get to that position, what is the sense of us being up here? Yes?
Your consultants have reviewed this application.
Yes, they have.
And they've provided.
Nina, please get up to the microphone.
I mean, to be fair, right, this applicant has provided you almost 200 pages of information related to their application that gives you a very comprehensive picture of what they're proposing, what the impacts
And
are.
our
And wait, just let me
consultants
finish.
sent out they wanted comments on this. We haven't even let them comment on what our consultants wanted.
Okay, can I talk just for a second?
Sure, go
Okay,
ahead.
so they provided you with all of this information. Your consultants have reviewed it. They've provided you with comment letters.
Yes.
The CAC has provided you with comment letters.
Okay.
You've gotten comment letters back from DEC, from Dutchess County Planning as part of their GML 239 referral.
Yeah.
You've heard from a lot of people that live here. You've heard from this guy's consultant and his attorney, and a
Not
number of
yet.
times. Can I finish?
Go ahead.
Okay. So they've provided you with all of this work, and this guy has paid for all of it. And based on that body of information, your board reviewed all of that, reviewed all of the comments that have been provided by your paid consultants, and made what I think is an informed decision based on the information that you have. If you were going to continue to consider this and you want to pursue this further, and this guy wants to continue to pay Mr. Bulfamanti and Mr. Maggio and their consultant, David Wright, would like to continue to prepare additional information. They want a hydrogeologist, they want to do additional endangered species analysis because they got a review from Fish and Wildlife. They want to take a look at New York Natural Heritage Program. They need permits from SHPO. They need all of this information. If you're going to continue and ask them to continue to do that work over and over again and pay for it, and then come to the conclusion that this is not compatible with the town, that's not fair to them. And
Right,
so no one
but
here is saying that the comprehensive
Isn't that their
plan
choice?
no, it's yours as the lead agency.
So
it's your
why are you
responsibility.
saying that they're the sacrificial lamb? It's not their, you
I'm
don't
not
want to
saying it's
take
the
their money
sacrificial
away from them. Maybe they're willing to spend this money because they believe in this project.
But why would you ask them to do that if you're not going to consider it?
Would you guys be willing to spend the money to give us more information to get to the next level?
I have no problem with that.
It's very,
But
but
you've
this is what I'm
already
saying.
made- you've already made the
Why
decision.
are we spending their money?
Can I just ask one
You
question?
are
And
spending
if
their
you
money.
do listen to our consultants, and if you have read the consultant reports, CAC is the only one that is against this.
They're
And
not
6 months ago, CAC was all for this project, and that's how it got started. All our consultants, our planner, our engineer, all these people, they did not say that this was a bad project.
That's not their job, to tell you to make the decision whether it's a good or a bad project. Their job is to inform you as to the deficiency of the current application. They give you information.
Yes.
You, as the lead agency, it's your responsibility to determine whether or not you want to approve this project. That's not on your consultants. That's your job.
And I
You've been
understand
elected
that.
to do that job.
And I
And you
understand
have just done that job.
Just have done that, and I don't agree with it.
Okay.
And I could voice my concern
Yeah.
why I don't agree with it.
Absolutely. And
And
no
you
one
know-
here is going to argue with you. You have a full board. You've been elected to represent this community. 4 members of your 5-member board decided that they didn't want to continue to entertain this application. It is absolutely your
So that's
right
fine.
and your
So-
responsibility to continue, but to go on a verbal tirade and yell at them and everybody else in this room is not fair to anybody. And it's also not what you were elected to do, with all due respect.
I can't voice my opinion because
No,
I'm an
you
elected
can,
official.
but yelling at people isn't part of
I'm
it.
sorry, I talk loud. I'm not yelling at people.
Okay.
All right, I talk loud. If you ever heard me yell, you would see the difference.
Okay.
All
I
right.
hope I
So
never
there-
get to that.
There is a difference, and
Okay,
I'm not
done.
trying to be a
I just wanted to
jerk.
point out to you that
but-
you've done your job. We all thank you very much for your time and your consideration. We all thank
But
you
see,
very much for
unfortunately,
all of
I
the
don't think
information.
we've done our job.
Okay.
And that's the problem that we have.
Okay, we're moving on to the well sanitation contract removal. Now, the issue with that is that for the contract renewal,
They wanted to change the hours, right?
Take your free time, everybody.
Days. Just Saturday?
State Welsh.
that was Aaron I'm excited about. I know. What? He agreed with Mike.
Do you want me to move this or something like that, or are we just
No,
gonna?
leave it.
Okay.
Okay, the discussion, please take your conversations outside. We have a meeting, we not complete. It's late enough as it is. Okay, the contract renewal for well sanitation. They wanted to, because they do not have a lot of activity on Mondays and Fridays and have most of the activity on Saturday, they were wondering if we would entertain them just being open to 1 day a week on Saturday. From 7 to 2 instead of 7 to 1 for an extra hour. So I need to know what your feeling on that is. Do you want to keep Friday and Saturday and drop Monday, or what do you think? Because basically they're saying that, you know, they have an attendant there all day long and only a few people come.
So they're willing to consider compromise in which I would suggest either, you know, a couple of hours on Monday morning or a couple of hours on Friday. I don't know when the high traffic is, but I use it on a Friday morning as I'm driving through if I've missed my Saturday, you know, missed my pickup time, or, you know, Monday for a couple of hours. You know, 7 to 9 I think probably would catch. I don't know about other people.
Some people work on Saturday, and they don't have the
Okay, so.
abilities, so.
Well, what if we just, what about just having it on Friday and Saturday? And dropping the Monday?
Monday looks like it's the lowest, the slowest day.
It's the lowest usage.
Yeah. So that I do think it's important to have, for businesses or a weekday availability.
Would they be open to having it open maybe 2 hours on Monday?
Well, Monday is the slowest day.
Yes, I understand that, but I'm just thinking of the difficulty of trying to get things done when everything's closed on your only day off kind of deal.
So if they had Friday and Saturday.
Obviously, if they're having on average 20 people on Monday, that's 20 people who can't show up on Friday or Saturday.
But we don't know that.
Well, it says the average number of users on Monday was 20, Friday was 30, and Saturday was 60.
I think there should be 2 days open.
I do
Go back to
too.
well sanitation and find out what day they want to do it, and
Saturday,
let's go
they
from
just,
there.
they just wanted to do Saturday
No,
from 7 to 2.
no, we're going to ask them, we need a day during the week that's open. And let them give us what days during the week they're willing to open. And then we'll see if that's sufficient or not.
We have to make that decision. We either decide it's Friday or Monday. Monday is the least
Why
traffic.
can't it be Tuesday?
The original contract, it wasn't Tuesday.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They want to just offer Saturdays. Why don't we figure out what day? I would like to have a day in the middle of the week. A Wednesday would be nice for me. Because I could do something in the middle of the week, or I could do something on the weekend. If I have it open on Saturday and then I'm open back up again Monday, it doesn't give me time to collect the garbage I have around my house.
They want to
bring it
know
back.
what we think.
I would say we should have a day during the middle of the week.
And I'd actually, if we let them choose the day, but in exchange we get.
They're not doing that. That's why we're having this discussion.
Sure, I'm just saying that if there was a day that was a day of the week, and not knowing obviously that what day of the week is most convenient for everybody in town, but if there was a day of the week that was more convenient for them, then maybe in exchange they could stay open longer, offer longer hours that day or something to accommodate more. I
mean,
don't
I
think
just
it
would like
hurts
to
to
see the
ask.
space in between the days, because it's kind of hard if, I'm doing work at my house, and then I have a dump day on a Saturday, and then a dump day on a Monday. I have to wait until the following Saturday to go dump again. If I had a day in the middle of the week, it would be a little easier for me to work around my work schedule, or if we get rain or something like that. Instead of waiting a full week to go to the garbage, I only have to wait 3 days.
Or if there's a holiday weekend, that's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. What if you want to go out of town? Now you've got to hold your garbage over for
So
the
what are
entire
we?
week.
So what would you like to propose to them?
I would like to propose a day, I would like to propose Wednesday.
Wednesday and Saturday?
Wednesday and Saturday. Like Vicky said, 7 to 9, 7 to 10 probably wouldn't be that bad on Wednesday. You're going to give, some of the people that actually work to collect the garbage during the week time to get rid of it. If someone's at my place cleaning up I'm hired them to clean up my parking lot, they have something to dump. It would be nice during the week to go there. So I would like to see a Wednesday, 4-hour block, somewhere. Tell them we could be,
What the rest of the board is, are you agreeable to that?
Yeah, I think that sounds like a good idea.
The Wednesday from earlier?
I would give them a 4-hour block, and I would ask them where their staff is. When, where are they heavy on their staff? Where are they light on their staff? And
They're currently, there's a 5-hour window that they're open on Mondays and Fridays, so
5-hour window.
yeah, it's
So have them. And what time is it on the window from Monday to Friday?
9 to 2.
9 to 2 on weekdays and 7 in the morning to 1 p.m.
Have them put on
weekends.
Wednesday 9 to 2. That's what I think I would say.
Offer that, see if they'll do it. And then our fallback plan, I would think, if we had to do it, just a Friday and a Saturday eliminate the Monday for them.
I think if you're making a compromise, they had 3 days, they want to go down to 1 day, we want to go up to 2 days.
Right.
It's a compromise, they're business people, I don't see them having a problem doing that.
They're going to ask for as much,
Okay.
but we're going to
Yes.
settle halfway.
Okay, about that discussion with them then.
You also have to decide, their option is you can extend it for a period of up to 5 years. But if you prefer, they're saying they would offer 5 single consecutive year terms.
If we can lock in, maybe we should for 5 years if we can compromise. Otherwise, they'll come back to us and say, Friday or Wednesday, only have 12 people. So then we wouldn't ever be able to change that for the 5-year contract unless they came back to us and
Yeah,
said,
if you
could we
extend it-
renegotiate?
Yeah, if you extend it for the 5 years, then you're
pretty
kind
locked
of
in.
locked into that
Yeah.
schedule.
Well, let's see how they come back to us with the hours, and then we'll take,
Yeah, and then we'll decide if we're going
Decide
to
on
go
the
7
years.
or 5 years.
Okay, and I gave you information on, I was sent an email from Lowe's on a TCP and Lowe's contract saving card. So they're saying if our town is a government and state-funded agency, you all can take advantage of the 5% discount at no cost or obligations.
do we do much purchasing from Lowe's?
No, but if we did, we would have the discount. I mean, we
I
do.
don't see why we wouldn't.
So
It
it's,
doesn't cost us anything.
it doesn't cost us anything, but I
Let's do
didn't
it.
want to go ahead and do it unless,
Fine. Doesn't cost us anything, fine. I have no problem with that.
and we would keep the, I guess they're fobs or whatever they are.
The same as you do the
The
credit
same as,
card.
same as we do the credit card and the keys, we would keep them locked up until they were, needed to be used. So do we need a motion to do that, I think?
So
You're gonna sign up for a credit card.
It's not a credit card.
It's a
They want to know if they need to do a
TCP and
motion.
contract.
I make a motion that the supervisor register for a contract savings card with Lowe's.
I'll second that.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger,
Yes.
Councilman Delango,
Yes.
Councilman Gutierrez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle,
Yes.
and Supervisor Prodi.
Yes. Marco?
Okay, you should have all received in your packets the prices and specs for the control system, replacement control system. Just to try to keep costs down, some of the things that we're reusing, which are totally acceptable, the controls, NEMA enclosed boxes, the wiring, all the sensors are going to be reused. The PLCs, which is actually the computer part that runs the wells and sends out the alarms, that's what's going to be replaced. Along with that, my plan was to make sure we keep everything with one system so we don't have conflicting vendors and systems talking to each other. So we also incorporated a security system with that. In the specs, we'll clearly spell out, I don't want to spell it out in the forum here, security protocols or security system, but to sum it all up, on the controls part, the operations is exactly what we have now, with the only exceptions being no lease line. It's going to be wireless communication between the pump houses. So the lease line will cost savings there, which we pay $177 a month on. The wireless communications will be done via, like your SIM cards you have in your cell phones. That will be the cost of the cell towers, communication there in that data package. Communications will be done via email or phone, text. And those are the communications. So if there's a problem, the auto dialer will be disconnected. The auto dialer was never you never could understand it. It was like, sounds like somebody's talking underwater. So this basically tells you exactly what the alarm is, and gives you plenty of information to deal with and go and solve a problem. But again, the controls are the same exact controls, running in manual, auto, turning each individual wells on or off, pressure sensors, level sensors. So apples for apples, the same thing. The 3 bids are bidding on the same exact hardware. The bid specs call out specifically what hardware we're going to use, which is a very common unit, and it's not something that we're going to have to worry about not being able to get components for. Again, in 20 years from now, we could be in the same problem. Absolutely, it's just like any other computer component. In 6 months, it's out of date, but this is the most common system right now. And all 3 vendors, all 3 licensed electricians, fully insured, reputable, deal with controls, deal with this. 2 of them, actually all 3 of them have been at one point in time used on this facility. The one I use the most is JLS, but Black has been here, Giamo's been here over the years.
And I also like to comment that with the last sanitary code inspection we had by the Department of Health, they are recommending that this control system be upgraded and there be security.
And so we have both of those covered, and both of those are covered with a non-conflicting unit. The warranty is 1 year. The installation includes every price which you see here is installation and components and training and service. 2-hour response time for service also. So each one of them followed the exact bid specs that I gave them.
So we have 3 bids, one from JLS Electric for $22,495, one from John, is it Giamo and Son?
Yep.
For $24,000, and from Black Electric for $29,450.
Make a motion that we accept the low bid of
Sure.
She has to finish her motion.
JLS Electric Incorporated for the water system for $22,495.
Second, now discussion.
Discussion. Mark, with very good bid specs, very planned out and everything. The only thing that I don't see that I would like to see, 1.3 contractor work experience. A, contractor shall have installation experience with at least 5 similar water systems with 900 megahertz radio control. The contractor shall provide references of similar work upon request.
Yep.
I would like to see if you could get those references so we could look at them.
Sure.
Okay? I mean, that's one thing that
I also have a question about JLS's bid. It says the final programming by others there. The other bids seem to...
It's included in that bid. I did question him on that, but the thing is, here's how this works. The hardware is the same component. It's bought from a manufacturer, bought from a dealer. The dealer is the person that has to sell it to these guys and program it, all 3 of them. The electricians do no programming. They do the installation. They do the testing to make sure every what they call is point, every circuit is working. And then upon that, the programmer comes in, and that's the manufacturer of the PLC controls, and they test everything and set everything up, and they're the ones that give the training, not the electrician.
And that program cost is part of the hardware
That's
acquisition
all
cost?
included in this package, yes.
Okay.
The hardware original price was just about $16,000. We got them down to $14,695. It's just the hardware.
Any other further discussion? I'd like to amend my motion to include that it be contingent upon the provision of the references.
That's fine.
Second that.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilman Gutierrez?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
And any other questions? All right, the only thing we had going on was we had a 1 meter freeze and break, Immaculate Conception Church. They somehow left the door open. That was the only thing, there's this passcode snap that happened that we know of. Nobody else called and complained about anything, no replacement of any other frozen meters. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Resolution number?
11.
Transfer of funds for February 2016. Whereas the town board has the authority to transfer funds when necessary and unanticipated to amend the budget. Whereas budget amendment in the water fund increasing expense line 1.083202.06000 source power pump EQ by $11,175.63 to pay an invoice received in 2016 related to well number 6 pump replacement work performed in 2015 to be funded by increasing the appropriated fund balance account 599 by $11,175.63. The cash is currently residing in the Water District Capital Projects Fund money market account. We are authorizing the $11,175.63 to be transferred from the Water District Capital Projects Fund money market account to the general fund checking account to pay for this equipment. Whereas budget amendment in the general fund increasing expense line 13104.1.40 Director of Finance CE by $6,388.13 and decreasing expense line 12201.1 Supervisor PS by $6,388.13 to pay an invoice received in 2016 related to accounting work performed by CDOR in 2015. Whereas budget amendment in the general fund increasing expense line 80204.1.0 Planning CE by $764.88 and decreasing expense line 19004.1.49.0 Special Items CE Contingency by $764.88 to pay an invoice received in 2016 related to legal work performed by David Everett in 2015. Whereas budget amendment in the general fund increasing expense line 14204.1.0 Attorney CE by $6,277.98, increasing expense line 14404.1.0 Engineer CE by $2,525.81, increasing line 16804.1.0 Data Processing CE by $2,740.56, increasing line 16204.1.54 Building CE Electrical by $647.90, and decreasing expense line 19004.1.57.0 Special Item CE Grant Administration by $12,192.25 to pay invoices received in 2016 for work performed in 2015. Whereas budget amendment in the general fund increasing expense line 16204.1.62 Building CE Maintenance by $1,296 and decreasing expense line 16704.1.61 Central Print Mail Legals by $1,296 to pay an invoice received in 2016 for work performed in 2015. Whereas budget amendment in the general fund increasing expense 90108.1 State Retirement by $6,462.44 and decreasing expense line 90608.1 Medical Insurance Town Share by $6,462.44 to pay additional state retirement charges. Whereas budget amendment in the general fund increasing expense line 50101.1 Superintendent of Highways Personal Service by $530.04 and decreasing expense line 12201.1 Supervisor PS by $530.04 to cover last biweekly payroll for 2015 processed in January. Whereas budget amendment in the Highway Fund, increasing expense line 51103.3 general repairs, personal service by $4,168.28, and decreasing expense line 51421.3 snow removal personal service by $4,168.28 to cover last biweekly payroll for 2015 processed in January. Whereas budget amendment in the Highway Fund, increasing expense line 90108.3 state retirement by $9,599.56, increasing expense line 90308.3 Social Security by $223.20, and decreasing expense line 90608.1 medical insurance town by now $9,822.76 to pay additional charges.
Victoria, I got one question. Maybe I just don't understand it. As far as the last one, you're increasing line 90108.3 state retirement by $9,599. Were we under budgeted in that line, or?
We had, we got chargebacks because we had to add back in retirement time for an employee.
Now, the medical insurance line that money's coming out, what did we over-collect for medical insurance?
We didn't collect, we just budgeted more money, extra
Budgeted
money.
more money.
See, it's hard to budget for the medical insurance because our enrollment period ends on April 30th. And so I just try to, I get an idea from Marshall and Sterling what the increase is going to be and try to budget accordingly. But it's like, it's just difficult to figure it exactly.
Now, I think the state retirement on the first page, the $6,462, that was short also, so it's sort of the same thing, right?
Yes, it's the same thing. We're cleaning up a lot of the retirement where, there wasn't enough taken out.
Now, in 2016, we're budgeted, I don't remember the exact thing, but I think for $41,000, a little over 41
Yeah,
grand.
I was given that amount by retirement. Retirement gives you that amount.
Okay.
And then...
So 2015 was $59,000.
Right.
But for 2016, we only have like $42,000 budgeted for that.
That's what they told me to budget.
All right, so we're going to be short on the end of 2016 also.
No, because these were chargebacks from someone who had retirement who didn't get enough paid into the retirement. So we had to fix the paperwork because we found there were a couple of people who didn't have everything that should have gone into retirement. It's been a project that Annette's been working on. There were probably 3 or 4 employees that we had to fix. So so we should be fine for 2016 because that's the amount that they gave us. But that's, I can, show you a copy of the retirement bill. It has, whatever the $40,000, and then it had an
extra. Just so I can understand it a little better.
Yeah, I'll show you the bill, and then they have this other charge amount on there, which, I didn't see coming. I mean, I knew there would be additional chargebacks because we were fixing the retirement for some of the employees that that didn't have enough put in there. So that's been a ongoing project, but we're pretty much up to date now.
Okay.
Who'd like to make the motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution to transfer funds for February 2016.
Second. Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilman Delango?
I'm going to abstain on it, please.
Councilman Gutierrez?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Supervisor Perotti?
Yes. I need, I make a motion to table the town board authority to establish ambulance service resolution. We're not ready for this yet.
Second?
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilman Gutierrez?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
And Supervisor Prodi?
Yes. And does anyone have any other matters? Because I don't at this point.
I do. February 9th minutes.
Oh, yes. I make a motion that we approve the February 9th, 2016 minutes as presented. Since we have a quorum, we have to redo it. We have to redo it because we didn't have a quorum.
To abstain.
Second?
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilman Delango?
Abstain.
Councilman Gutierrez?
Abstain.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
And Supervisor Prodi?
Yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Is there any other public comment?
Victoria, one thing before the public comment. The way with our voucher systems work and everything else, when we have a contract with a town, like the snow plowing account or anything else, is there any way that you could put that with the prepays? So, you know, it's an account that's approved already. We already have the money set aside for it and everything else. I just think it'd probably be a little easier to go with the prepays instead of waiting for the board meetings and the resolution approvals and everything else for these contractors to get paid. I'm just thinking it might be a little simpler way to do it.
I think prepaids are very prescribed as to what can fall into that category. It's a municipal, accounting process. I don't think that
I
we
mean, if
can
it's
sort
something
of
we
like
could check
expedite.
into it because it's a contract that's already approved.
Yeah,
It's a set amount
maybe.
every month.
Maybe.
I
I
think-
think
I think-
utilities are for
Could you
sure.
check
but-
into that? Victoria?
Yeah, I think we can do that as long as we all agree. I can, check with the controller's office.
I mean,
and
if
see
you
what
could
they
check
say
with the
about it.
controller's office and make sure that's right, and then,
I
you know,
think we
just-
have to do a resolution also because we had to do a resolution and the reorg for the utilities and such.
however
so,
it has to be
yeah.
done, I was just wondering if it is
Yeah,
a
I can
simpler
check with the
way.
controller's office and see what
Okay.
they say.
Can you get back to us next meeting on that, or will it take
Oh,
longer?
no, it's a phone call.
Okay.
I'll call them.
If you could just send it
Actually,
out
I can
in
send an email.
Yeah, send an email out.
No, I usually, if I have a question for the controller's office, I go to the gentleman who taught the class, the introduction to governmental accounting.
Yeah, just when you get an answer, I'm just saying, send it out to us.
Yeah, I'll send it to
So we could discuss
everybody.
it among the board before the next meeting.
Okay, we can do that. No public comment, town board comments? Oh, is there public comment?
Yes.
Then please, by all means.
How are you? It's been a long evening. I'll be short. My name is Steve Perino. I reside in Pauling, and I work at the Silo Ridge Project, right up the street. And we have started a coalition, kind of a grassroots movement, to support the project and support the jobs and the need for jobs and the economy related to this project. What we've done is we've got so far 401 signatures from online, from a website that we had started, and we have another 200 signatures from local businesses and areas throughout the community. This represents Amenia and the surrounding areas, and there's a total of over 600 signatures here. And we would just like to submit this to the town board just to review and to know that we're doing this in response to some of the opposition for the project. We feel that it's gone on long enough that there's been a lot of negativity and a lot of false accusations regarding the project. And there's a few people, a handful, a small amount of people that oppose the project for whatever reason it is. It's more of a personal agenda, I think, that they have regarding the Article 78 and a few other things that have been going on. And unfortunately, most of the people that are working there and have signed these petitions are people just like us that are busy working every day. They don't have a lot of time on their hands, and a lot of things get pushed by the wayside because they don't have the time, to voice their opinion. And I think this kind of solves part of that problem. Considering the amount of signatures that we have here, I think it's something that should be definitely reviewed. I know that the town board and the planning board and everything has been working very hard with this project, and I believe everyone's in favor of it. But like I said, there's a few people with outside interests that for one reason or another are opposed to it. And I think it's, about time that people step up and have a stake in the project, and in the future, not only in Amenia, but in the surrounding communities in all Dutchess County and even part of Connecticut. I mean, we need this project. We really need this project. And I think it's a very good project. It's got a negative impact on the services that are going to be needed, which I believe everybody understands. And I think that going forward, we're going to have more signatures, and hopefully the next meeting we'll have another 600 or plus, and that's it. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Appreciate it.
Could you have Dawn Marie scan and distribute those for the board?
Spring is coming early, and I just wanted to ask about the rail trail crossings, because the bike riders are going to be starting up again, and I live down there, and I can just feel when I come up, no matter how slow, you're worrying about somebody shooting out on a bicycle. So I just wondered, since we spoke in the fall, if there's been any movement, should we be calling the county?
They put signs up that said dismount.
But there won't be any ballasts across there. We're going to have to rely on
I
people
don't know if
dismounting.
they're going to do the ballast, but they have been there and did put up additional signage. But I can check with them to see what else they're going to be doing.
Okay. Thanks.
I did not mention, I said I was going to do a little report on the National Refuge area that is being proposed for what they call the Northern Housatonic region, which is basically South Amenia down, it's basically kind of the oblong area of the 10 Mile River. It's a little swath. It's about, it's federal legislation that is not yet authorized. There's a huge amount of money, I don't remember how much, but that has been proposed to be set aside to preserve important habitats and actually create a brushland habitat
Who owns the
of
property?
significant areas.
The one
It's a
property
large
in
area.
Wassaic is owned by the New York State Conservation. The property on Lake Amenia Road is owned by the town.
And in between,
There's
is there
all
private
kinds of
property?
land. Yeah, there's private land,
I mean,
tons
is
of
this
private
land
land.
being
Well,
bought
the
from
land
people?
in Amenia is what
The
I
New
was
York,
referring
Connecticut
to.
border sub-region conserved lands say that there's 380 acres in federal possession. State land is 108. One's local non-governmental is 623 acres. Private landowner conservation easement is 241. That 1,353 acres, that's how you break out those types. What they want to do is purchase where private owners are willing. Outright purchase is one option, and another is just to purchase easements or
And
voluntarily.
another was eminent domain.
I didn't hear
According
that.
to their
Well,
documentation.
At market value, that would be possible. I didn't read that part. But we talked about it briefly at the CAC, but there's a meeting in Dover at 6:30 p.m., February 24th, Dover Town Hall. It conflicts, unfortunately, with 5:30 Mark Molinaro and the EMC meeting in Farm and Home Center, but I'm going to try and do it all, do the Molinaro and then down to the Dover Town Hall. But what they're trying to preserve is brushland for certain endangered species such as monarchs, woodcocks, bog turtles, and land would be acquired at market value where it's deemed appropriate or easements acquired. We kind of went quickly over some positive and negatives that we could think of. It certainly is just at the early stages, and one thing that we definitely said is that Swift Pond, the bog, there's some really wonderful, truly phenomenal natural resources in that area, and if the owners who currently own it can somehow get some remuneration for preserving it in perpetuity, or have public access to it, and they can help promote tourism or preservation, that would be great. The negatives might be that some of this private land might be taken off the tax rolls. There's some potential conflict with farmers. If you look at the types of activities that are going on these parcels that are being considered, agriculture is 8,000 acres of the 35,000, so it's actually 60% is forested, 10% is developed, and it has the highest percentage of its land classified as agriculture, 32%. The problem that my husband immediately came up with was the fact that if you are doing a lot of hay, first cut, second cut, third cut, and you're trying to preserve this land at the same time as being for ground bird nesting sites, you mow, you're restricted to certain mowing, and it may or may not work with the current agricultural realities. So we're trying to just listen and learn, and it's not here yet. It's pending legislation, so the money isn't set aside yet. It's a 30-year rollout plan, so it wouldn't be like tomorrow we're going to suddenly, my guess is it would very slowly roll out. A land parcel is available, they might consider it, the town might say, gosh, Swift Pond is well worth preserving, it's a high priority. I think I'm excited about it, ultimately. But we'll keep on it. That's all I can say.
It's pertaining to about $1 million of property, the two different sites in the hamlet of Amenia and the hamlet of Wasac. The Wasac one is the 775 and the Amenia is 225. My concern for the Amenia on Lake Amenia Road, of course, would be we have that the little bridge that goes over there, and we have to maintain those roads, and I would want to know what impact that would have on our ability to maintain those roads. That's a pretty well traversed cut across.
And you have to worry about the residents too. I mean, you're creating a wildlife refuge. You might have people, I don't know, crossing onto people's private property that aren't part of that wildlife refuge, thinking, oh, I could just travel over here because it's a refuge. You know, a lot of these refuges aren't clearly marked, just like state land. I mean,
Well, it is town land in Amenia.
But I'm talking about the private owners of
There
these
weren't
lands.
any for our town.
There weren't any private properties targeted for this town?
Correct. According to the GIS
read it
parcel
differently.
access map.
Okay. We had a map that included just a big boundary of this region, which encompasses...
I did an overlay of the GIS map, the water map, to make sure I got the parcels right.
Could you print it or take a PDF of it and send it to us so that we have that information?
I didn't save that at all.
Okay. Well, we'll go to the meeting. I would suggest anybody that's interested go to the meeting on the 24th.
I'll be here.
Yeah.
with Mark.
It's at 6:30?
It's at 6:30 at the Dover Town Hall.
Couple things, last meeting, I was asked to look into about knowing if there's people in the building or not and when it's getting locked up and stuff. The little bit of research that I've done, there is so many keys out there with so many alarm codes. I don't think you're ever gonna have this building actually secured, all right?
We have a list of who has what.
Again, we don't know, are they giving keys out, are they losing keys? I mean, how many keys
We do
are out
know, we know exactly how many keys are out
How
and
many
who
keys are
have
out
them.
there?
I don't have the list in
All
front
right,
of me.
so 50
We
keys,
have a
60
list.
keys?
I don't know, I have a
But
list.
whatever, we don't know if those keys are being lent to someone to come in here with the alarm codes and everything else. We don't know that, all right?
We don't know what.
If I have a key, how are you gonna tell if I'm gonna lend it to somebody to come in and give them my alarm code? You don't know that, all right? So one of the suggestions that I was thinking about, all right, keep the building open for a certain time span. If it's from 9 o'clock in the morning to 7 o'clock at night or 8 o'clock at night, something like that, that the building is gonna be always open. Then you have an open and a close. The building opens at 9 o'clock, it closes at 8 o'clock. It was just something that I brought up, I was thinking for a discussion. So now, when you have those set hours of operation, when the building is closed at 8 o'clock, everybody has to be out of that building by 8 o'clock. One person, if it's John Culligan or if it's a member of the board, they do their walk around, they lock the door, they set the alarm, you do away with the keys, you do away with the alarm.
We have Dutchess Community College doing classes twice a week till 9.
Okay, so then maybe we look at 9.
Or
as
11, or midnight.
It's a different story with us at the town board.
Oh, we would be exempt.
Well, of course we're going to be
Oh,
exempt. We're here with a thing. I'm talking about all the public that uses the building,
I
all the
see.
classes that we have, and everything else. I mean, don't get me wrong, there could be exceptions to the rules, but if you have a set time that the building is open, you don't need to give keys to everybody. Town board members could have keys, planning board members could have keys or something like that, but you don't have the regular non-elected officials or someone that doesn't work for the town with keys and alarm codes. All right?
But what do you
But
do
somebody
if
have to
somebody's
keep
here
an eye
late
on
at
it.
night alone? If you don't have activities going on, does somebody want to be in the building alone with the door unlocked?
I wouldn't.
What do you mean someone will want to be in the building with the door unlocked?
Like, let's say someone's working late
Like me?
and there's
Okay.
no other, or
Well,
no
you made
other
a statement, you
activity.
have your panic button, you're not too worried.
Yeah, I do, but why should I have to even have it? I mean, if everything's locked up and the code is set, then I don't need it.
All right, but
And I
if-
don't keep it with me every single minute.
So if someone has a key to come in, you don't know if they're going to be in the building or not.
Well, so what? If they have a key, then they have the authority to be in here.
But you really think that,
But I don't think it's a good security idea to leave the building open for long stretches of time.
Somebody'd have to be here to keep an eye on the thing. I mean, you don't want things walking out the door.
you're going to have things
Benches
walking out the
and-
door with keys now.
Well, there is some accountability. Who used that code? Who was responsible for that code? Wouldn't the security guy say, gee, Vicky, that's your code. You say you weren't here? Well, then who the hell got your code?
Oh, who got your code?
Yeah.
It's a simple
You're the
4-digit
one who
code.
gave it out to somebody.
It's a simple 4-digit code. And we have 70 of them, or however many we have.
Well, at least there's some security. I wouldn't just leave that door open.
What's that?
There's 47.
47 alarm
47.
codes. It's 47 people.
Well, we have 47 people who are,
Okay.
got some
He asked me to look
responsibility.
into it, that's what I'm thinking
Me too.
about, so.
Just to follow up, thank you, Mike, for looking into that. And Damien, I'm not calling you out, but you're the new person on the board, so I'll just let you know. 3 years ago, I went ahead and made a little tag for underneath the alarm panel, and it says, do not alarm the security system unless the following procedures have been completed. Prior to setting the alarm, the last employee is responsible for locking the exterior doors. Also, it is the responsibility of the departmental personnel to lock all interior doors that open into the hallway. So at the end of each shift, everybody's doing it. When a building is used after hours, the employee or an individual has been issued a building use permit. That person is responsible upon entering and leaving for the locking both the interior doors opening into the hallways and the exterior doors. So that's kind of what we currently had in place. You know, Mike came across an example that he was here for a recreational class afterwards, and that's why I said, Mike, please help me out. You know, what more can we do other than putting the burden goes on the person? And the way I felt was the person who's doing the building use form, who has the key, who has the alarm code.
That's their responsibility at that point.
This also stems onto another issue of, building use, which it's 11 o'clock at night. We're going to have to add that as an agenda item, but Mike and I had a very lengthy conversation about building use. So I think there's a lot of issues that are coming up with building use and access. The reality of it is, are you board members going to be the ultimate ones if somebody wants to do something on a weekend, Saturday or Sunday? Are you committing yourselves and making that part of your job responsibility to open and close the doors? Is there a particular person? I mean, these are questions that we duked it out for about an hour on the phone.
I think the town board members, if we approve a group that is going to come in, we make sure there is a way for them to get in and get out, or work it out with the custodian if he happens to be there, or somebody else. It's your responsibility.
The reality of it is, and these conversations are coming up because we are only getting busier. There's more rec activities that are looking to come in. Now you guys are talking about a kitchen. People are not going to want to cook maybe at 8 o'clock or 7:30 when I get in the morning. And, we don't know what their hours are. So I think these are valid points that Mike and I are trying to have. And we're just trying to figure out how we're going to address this.
We still don't know who's in the building and who's not in the building. We had that whole thing.
I mean, I would welcome, to be honest with you, when we did the security system and the video system at the ballpark, why not have a security system looking at the entranceways, all of our entranceways and our hallways? I mean, they don't have to be in the actual rooms, but have all of our entranceways, comings and goings of individuals. You'll have faces. I think the public, times are different, and the awareness of it is, and some of us are here late at night. We do come in at after our midnights for arraignments. I mean, we are coming here. And look, we've moved from lights, trying to clear our pathways and trying to, ensure our safety and well-being outside, and now we want to ensure the security inside. I mean, we got to look out for the welfare of our employees and those that are wanting to use this building. I mean, you offer the building. Some are free, some are $25, but I mean, we need to start thinking and making it aware that there's some concerns that have been expressed, and you guys are the only ones that can act on it.
Is there any other town board comments? Make a motion to go into executive session.
Second, provided that you give the purpose to the town clerk.
Attorney-client advise about settlement of disputed matter.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilman Delango.
Yeah, with a 5-minute break.
Okay. Okay, so Councilman Delango, Councilwoman Hitzberger.
Yes.
Councilman Gutierrez.
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle, and Supervisor Perotti.
I think we